All right, welcome everybody to tonight's meeting of the Escondido City Council. Please rise for a moment of reflection and remain standing for the flag salute.
Yeah, please join me in a moment of reflection. We come together tonight to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to serve here in the city of Escondido. We come together tonight as a diverse community, a community of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different presents, and different futures, yet one common goal, and that is the betterment of this city. We come together tonight to seek guidance, wisdom, and discernment during deliberations that transpire this evening, and in doing so, we lift up Councilmember Fitzgerald, Councilmember Christian Garcia, Councilmember Martinez, Deputy Mayor Joe Garcia, and Mayor White. May they be granted peace and wisdom as they lead our city into a bright and prosperous future. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting is called to order, and we'll do a quick roll call. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councilman Christian Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Martinez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Garcia.
Here.
And I, Mayor White, am here. We'll move on quickly to our Water Awareness Month proclamation and our presentation for the fourth grade poster contest. Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas any measure of a successful society, including healthy families, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety, are in some way related to access to safe water, and whereas that essential service of providing potable water ensures safe, reliable water continues to be available for public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and for the quality of life we all enjoy. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas each citizen of our community is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to understand and get involved in local water issues. Now therefore be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Escondido, I do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Water Awareness Month.
Thank you. Good evening. On behalf of all the staff who work hard on our water systems daily to provide our community with clean drinking water, thank you, Mayor and Council, for recognizing Water Awareness Month. And thank you to all of this year's participants in our annual fourth grade Love Water, Save Water poster contest who are in the room with us tonight. Your work to express through art the value of water in our community and in your own lives as representatives of our community's future is an important part of the way the city of Escondido celebrates water awareness each year. And I want to invite the public to join us in celebrating the value of water and of our water resources this month by taking advantage of the resources available to Escondido residents to help us all improve our water efficiency every day. These resources include rebates for water-efficient devices, free landscape classes and compost workshops, and educational resources, not only to show you how to save water, but how to protect our local waterways from pollution. You can visit the Environmental Programs page on the city website for more information about all of our programs and events. Thank you.
One, two, three. Just a few more real quick. Yeah, sorry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Great job. Congratulations.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Tori Wolf, and I am the Senior Administrative Assistant of the Environmental Programs Division of the Utilities Department. Here with me tonight is Kim Silva, Emma Petratz, and Emily Mixer. It is a privilege to be presenting and celebrating the 34th year of our annual 4th grade water poster contest. Our goal through this contest is to spread awareness regarding water conservation and water use efficiency, and we are filled with gratitude by all of your continued support in this endeavor. Throughout the year, Emma presented to numerous 4th grade classes to teach them the value of Earth's water resources and the importance of water conservation. The students were then invited to draw a picture reflecting what they learned, keeping in mind the theme of our contest, Love Water, Save Water. After collecting nearly 150 entries, city staff voted to narrow down our top 12 finalists that will be honored here today. Posters were judged off of artistic skill, creativity, and representation of the theme. Today, we are recognizing our 12 finalists whose art will be displayed in various places around the city, such as Park Avenue Community Center, East Valley Community Center, the Children's Museum, Mershops Mall, as well as our Escondido website and social media platforms. The top 3 winners of this contest will also be going in the 2027 North County Water Calendar. We would like to take a moment to express our thanks to all of our generous sponsors this evening. Thanks to you, our creative and hardworking students will be walking away with an amazing prize bag and full bellies from Chick-fil-A, who catered our reception. Before announcing our finalists, I wanted to remind everyone of a couple of resources we have available. Coming up this weekend, we have our free compost workshop. Join us for hands-on demonstrations on how to build your own backyard compost pile. Learn how to reduce and reuse waste from your kitchen to help your garden bloom. You'll leave with a gallon of fresh compost and maybe a prize from our raffle. We also have a free interactive landscape class happening on May 30th. Learn from a professional landscape architect how to transform your yard into a vibrant, low-maintenance oasis, and leave with a swag bag to kickstart your landscaping journey. If you're interested, we have flyers available in the reception area for you to grab on your way out. Now, without further ado, I'd like to invite Emma up to announce our finalists of this year's water poster contest.
All right, the moment we have all been waiting for. Students, when I call your name, please come up to receive your certificate and prizes. Teachers, please also come up with your student. We have a small gift as a token of our appreciation for your continued support in welcoming us into your classrooms. Students and teachers, please remain up in the front for a group photo at the end. And parents, after we announce all of the winners, you're invited to come up for a brief moment to take a few photos before we head outside to our reception. So let's get started. First artist we will be recognizing tonight is Charlotte Olson from Mrs. Elliott's class at Quantum Academy. Come up right here. Yep, right over here, Charlotte. I'll hand you your certificate. All right. Next up, Will Jackson from Mrs. Andrews' class at Heritage Elementary. And Melanie Janelle Mendoza from Miss Hoffman's class at Heritage Elementary. Sophia Andrea Martinez from Miss Hoffman's class at Heritage Elementary. Aiden Frolic from Mrs. Miller's class at Heritage Elementary. Kobe Tubbs from Mrs. Miller's class at Heritage Elementary. Eileen I. Garcia from Miss Goodman's class at Heritage Elementary. Emmett Day from Mrs. Arnold's class at Grace Christian School. Jaslyn Hernandez from Miss Taylor's class at Rose Elementary. And now for our top 3 artists whose work will be featured in the 2027 Water Awareness Calendar. In 3rd place, Ava Pio from Miss Taylor's class at Rose Elementary. In 2nd place, Kayla Boyd from Mrs. Arnold's class at Grace Christian School. And now, in 1st place, Erin I. Guzman from Miss Hoffman's class at Heritage Elementary. Congratulations, 2026 4th grade Water Awareness Poster Contest winners. Please remain standing up front for a few moments for photos. And first up, please direct your attention to our city clerk. He's going to take a picture, and then parents, after that, feel free to stand up and take a few more photos.
I got you. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And members of the family, you can come and take pictures too.
All right. Take a couple quick photos.
I think so.
Thank you.
Emmett.
Thank you.
Emmett. Go back. Yeah, Emmett. Elizabeth's trying to take pictures with you and Kayla and everything.
All right, take your last couple photos. We're going to let council move on with their agenda. Let's head outside. Follow Kim. Kim has her hand up over there. Kids, families, and teachers, follow Kim outside, please. Yeah. We're going to take one more group photo outside, everyone. Everyone, follow Kim. She's got her hand up over there.
Check it all out in the car.
Do we have a report out of closed session?
No public report. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll move on to non-agenda public comment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a few. Our first is Bob Wheeler. Bob Wheeler. Okay. No. Lisa Richards.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council. Homelessness is an extremely complicated issue and has countless quote-unquote solutions, tried with no real answer to all of the issues involved. It's no secret that we won't see real housing for the homeless anytime soon. With this reality in mind, what can be done to address problems associated with homelessness, both by the population itself and the community as a whole? A day center for the homeless can address several concerns of the community while offering services with dignity to the homeless. I would suggest showers and bathroom facilities, food, centralized services, and education on pertinent issues such as available resources, maybe even religious services and addiction services available. There could be case management available to create a pathway of best realistic outcomes. And I would also suggest storage space availability to cut down on the ever-growing belongings being transported throughout the city while offering the homeless a secure place for these belongings. With a fair number of empty buildings and empty lots in Escondido, where this could be should not be that difficult to figure out. I believe that current volunteer organizations would see the ability to address a multitude of issues facing those experiencing homeless in one place, would be able to help more homeless more efficiently and effectively. I'm just a resident and no expert on the subject, but suggest that those who are at least consider this for viability and a potential way to address as many sides of this issue possible to help both the homeless community and the community as a whole. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Feinstein.
Good evening. Michael Feinstein. I'm a former mayor and city council member in Santa Monica, a co-founder of the Green Party of California, and a candidate for California Secretary of State. And I'm here to talk about representation for your city on the state level, particularly in this environment now where election integrity is a race to the bottom across the country. A few months ago, remember in Texas, they gerrymandered to help the Republicans. Then here in California, we gerrymandered to help the Democrats. And now the Supreme Court has gutted the Voting Rights Act. So what do we learn from all that? If we have a singular dependence on using winner-take-all single-seat districts to elect our state and federal elected officials, then some people are going to get representation and some not, because however you draw district lines, it includes some people and strengthens them, and other people no. And of course, it's being abused by people who are in power. The response to it is what is used in most of the countries that we're compared to around the world, systems of proportional representation, where instead of electing one seat, winner take all, zero-sum representation, you elect many seats together. One party gets 30% of the vote, they get 30% of the seats. Another party 40%, et cetera, et cetera. That gives more people a seat at the table of our democracy, and as the old adage goes, if you aren't at the table, you're on the menu. So there is likely going to be a ballot measure this fall to get rid of the jungle primary, top two, after the fiasco in the governor's race with all of the vote splitting. And the question is, where do we go from there? The specific proportional representation plan that I'm promoting is what they use in Germany and New Zealand, larger legislature, half the seats elected by ranked choice, voting for a much smaller single-seat district, so we have a more local input. But then the proportional side would be out of regional multi-seat districts that try and capture the fact that as a nation state and state of regions, the Central Valley is different than the Bay Area, than here in San Diego County, et cetera, and that a lot of our economic, housing, transportation realities are regional, and we should be sending people to Sacramento out of those kind of regional public policy discussions, and in doing so, you'd have some Democrats, some Republicans from an area, some Greens like myself, some Libertarians, maybe people from other parties that would develop in that kind of environment. So I'm going around the state and trying to raise this discussion about proportional representation, and that's why I came before in your beautiful council chambers tonight to speak to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Feinstein. Our next speaker is Richard Garner.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council. I'm here to speak about last council meeting on the encampment agenda item. I just wondered, where do they go? That's the thing I wrote down when I was hearing the discussion. Where do they almost go? Can't be there. Can't be there. Not in your house. Not in your house. But where? If you can't answer that question, you really haven't solved the homeless situation. You maybe can do cosmetic. Oh, I don't see them, therefore we did a great job. But we're moving them around, harassing them. I mean, we're nice. Oh, we're going to try to keep your stuff. But it really, in the end, it's harassment. So I just wanted to ask you, where do they go? Where do they go? Can't be on that street. They got to move on. Where? So I'll let you think about that. Thank you.
No further comments on non-agenda items. We do have comments for future agenda items that are coming on the agenda.
Perfect, thank you. I did forget to announce that item 7, the CDBG item, has been continued to June 10th, and with that, takes us to the consent calendar. Items 1 through 6 are on consent, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve that.
Mr. Mayor, item number 5 has been pulled by the public for discussion.
Just kidding. So items 1 through 4 and 6. Second, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, that takes us to item 5, which is the award of the contract for construction for West Side Park Skate Spot Project to Geocon Engineering.
And Mr. Mayor, would you like to have a presentation from the staff before the public
Sure.
comment? Yes, thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Garcia, and council members. My name is Jason Christman. I am the interim city engineer for the city of Escondido. I'm accompanied by Michael Tully, one of our project managers in engineering, and also Veronica Morones, our assistant development services director. The West Side Park Skate Spot Project. Here is a quick map of the area. It's surrounded by spruce and in between 3rd Avenue and 5th Avenue. The park will provide much needed relief to the demand for the community for more skate parks in our parks around the city. The new skate park will add another recreational opportunity and a new overall aesthetic to West Side Park. The work will consist of traffic control, transplanting of trees, new stormwater BMPs, installation of lights, improvements to the electrical panel, installation and reconnection of the irrigation system, and stormwater pollution prevention items. 6 bids were received on April 21st. Our low bidder was Geocon Engineering, coming in at $1.29 million. City staff reviewed all of the bid information and verified that all their information was in good standing. So our recommendation this evening is to adopt Resolution 2026-82, authorizing the mayor to execute the public improvement agreement in the amount of $1,293,844. We are here for questions.
Thank you very much. I assume we have a public comment?
We do. So Daniela Trujillo, you may come forward. And as Mr. Hio comes forward, if there's anyone else here who wished to speak on the skate spot item, please, you can just come to the podium after Mr. Hio and just state your name for the record, and I'll put it in there.
Good evening, Honorary Mayor White and council members. I appreciate you being here because you're taking away time from your family, just as I am taking away time from my family to be here. I have a 4-year-old. A little background about myself. I'm born and raised in Escondido. I'm a homeowner here. My parents are homeowners here. I'm a 4th-generation Californian. My son is 5th-generation Californian. And I'm here on my own accord. Nobody's paying me to be here. But I'm here because I've had a difficult time to be able to provide public input on this project. I've been trying to reach out regarding this project since summer of 2025, and I haven't had any success in doing that. My background is I've worked for several jurisdictions as a planner. So you would assume that somebody like me, I studied urban studies and planning at UC San Diego, you would assume somebody like me who has experience, who has an education, would have an easier time of getting through these barriers that, other people may experience as well. But I haven't had any success. And I think that speaks to how there are existing barriers that maybe need to be revisited, because I wanted to provide input before all these other, time frames like the CEQA that was reviewed, when the plot plan was reviewed, but I didn't get a chance because I was not informed when I had the chance. I have sent an email to Mr. Michael Tooley, the project manager here. I assisted the meeting last Saturday because I was interested in this project as well. Nobody told me about this today until I think in an email yesterday or today. So there is a lack of information that's being distributed to committee members when we're going to these meetings on a Saturday in our free time. And I feel like that needs to be improved for a city. I also think that it needs to be, we need to have greater public engagement. The city of Escondido, I think, has like a 300-foot noticing only to property owners. Other jurisdictions have a 500-foot noticing to properties that are adjacent to the project area, and it's sent to renters and owners. So I think there's a difference there for community engagement that I think our city needs to see. I'm not against skaters. I'm not against these activities. I'm against poor designs. I'm against poor integration into existing parks. The park that it exists at right now in the city is Washington Park. It's an 11-acre park versus this park is 2.3 acres. So it's apples and oranges what you guys are looking at here. And I don't think the general public really knows what's happening because I didn't see a site plan until yesterday. And it took me forever to try to get that. I appreciate you guys reconsidering and revisiting this. Also, the zoning is inconsistent, incongruent with the general plan designation, which I think is erroneous.
Thank you, Mr. Hio. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the skate spot item? If you do, come to the podium. Just please state your name for the record. Yeah, just the center podium. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you're good. Oh, totally. Just, state your name for the record when you, middle podium where Mr. Hio was. Yeah.
Hi. This is kind of scary. I'm Mayor. Hi, Deputy Mayor. My name's Costa. I think that, I'm trying to keep this short, simple. The best thing you could do for the younger generation is lift them up, make them believe in something, make them just get outside. That's another thing. There's a lot of kids that are getting out of school. They're just messing around. It's I don't know. So I'm nervous. I think the best thing you can do is bring people up, get them outside, especially for the kids. It kept me out of a lot of trouble. I've been in a lot of trouble, and I go to the skate park to just escape. If I'm having a hard day at home, I go to the skate park. People, yeah. I guess that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, perfect. Would anyone else? Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Hi, Council. This is my first meeting, so bear with me. I'm not really great at public speaking, but My name's Christina. I'm a longtime Escondido resident. Long enough to go to ups and downs. I live there, so I'm a roller skater in the community. And I just want to say that Washington Park has really changed my life. So it's been there for about roughly maybe 5 years. Escondido can use more skate parks. Doesn't matter where the location is. We glorify this place. We make it a home. It's a community for all our skaters, and we become like a family. It really does help the kids get out of trouble. It really does. I mean, yeah, sometimes it gets a little rocky, at the skate park when you get a lot of young kids together. But the community, the involvement, the athleticism, skate parks build legends and memories. And I think that we need to look at other cities like of Oceanside. I skate in Oceanside all the time. They're out there just building things. They've got 5 skate parks, I think. And there's just, the involvement and the happiness that it brings to people, My son, he's 6 years old, and I told him tonight where I was going, and I told him I'm going to go, try to see if we can make another skate park happen in Escondido. And he's like, heck yeah. And he's like, and another playground too. We need more playgrounds. We need more free activities for kids. I just can't express how much it's changed my life. I'm 41 years old, and outside of work, I work in social services. This is my therapy. It's really my mental health. So please consider Westside Skate Park. It would be a beautiful project, and I'd like to see it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on? Oh, perfect. Great.
Good evening, Council. My name is Angela. Great point. If it's an issue with zoning and natural, trees that are there in the irrigation, let's relook at it. Let's revise it. Let's not push it so it's just a poor design. I love Washington Skate Park. It saves a lot of people's lives. Mm-hmm. It brings a sense of community, the demographic of that neighborhood. I love that Escondido Unified School District is now integrating skateboarding as a physical education elective with a certain GPA maintained. In that area, I think it would be great for kids to do that. But I also don't want it to bring any type of anger or any type of conflict as far as the homeowners that are there. To have a home is a huge accomplishment. I think we should definitely have more skate parks. If it's not at Westside, I think it should be looked at for even Kit Carson, since that area is not being used anymore. That way we can use the same area without having to involve anybody who is living in the area. I think playgrounds are a must. I also have a 4-year-old daughter. I would hope that she would think that I'm proud speaking here, caring about something I care about. To see the kids start skating that don't even know how to skate, but it gives them an outlet. You don't know what they're going on at home. I've seen some kids really grow. It brings a lot of big names to the community. We've had Bam Margera, we've had Steve Cabrero, Willie Santos, Tony Hawk, it's the same, just to name a couple. And to get Escondido on the map, I think would be great for our community. We have been upgrading and glorifying this town, and I don't think it should stop. Let's bring in more skate parks. Let's bring in more recreational areas. Let's beautify this town. And I think we start by building a community that is together, that feels like a family, that brings a sense of morale. And I think we can overcome any kind of conflict, whether it's the planning, placement, or even the construction timing. Let's revisit it if we have to, but I don't think we should turn away on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Hello, good evening. My name is Shane Fisher. I've been a longtime resident in the area. I have gone to Washington Skate Park for the past 3 years. This skate park is a very unique skate park in the fact that it is the only one in Escondido. At this skate park, you will find more kids under the age of 16 than any other skate park in North County. I go to all the skate parks in North County constantly, and there's definitely a need in Escondido for another skate park. Our skate park is constantly used every single day. It got lights added onto it because there was so much activity there. We needed lights at night. Skate parks actually lower crime in the area because it provides an outlet for youth to go to a safe space. They're not hurting businesses. They're not trespassing. Also, with the planning of this skate park, there's been many different meetings. There's been lots of information on the planning as well. And I've also reached out to the city on my own to find more about the park, which you guys have responded about. So I did find like when it was being bid, who was going out to, and all the steps for the process. And if you are an active member in the skate park, it was very known when the meetings were going to be happening for the new skate park, which was held at the Washington Park city building, or that like community center right there. And it was a great time. And New Line Skate Parks helped us out, organized everything out, the whys, like why we couldn't have a bowl because of the water issues, or like diverting water, wastewater, and it was very thought out, very well planned. So I feel like the skate park is very well needed. It's been discussed over countless years, and it has a very good structure about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Any other public comments on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, questions from the council? Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a couple of comments. First of all, thank you to everybody that came up and gave the public comments. I really appreciate that. And I just want to say that during the planning phase, I did go out with the Director of Public Works, Joe Goulart, and Robert Rhodes, the Assistant Director of Community Services, and we walked the West Side Park, which is in my district, District 4. And it was after the playground had just been fully completed, the new playground, and I had an opportunity to speak to people that were at the playground, a couple of families. There was a grandparent, two grandparents with a grandson, and then a mom. The mom used to live in that neighborhood, and she had moved out, but she came back because she heard of the playground that had been installed, so she brought her son back, and they were just really talking about how that community had been in such a need for something like this for a very long time. And the excitement that was just around that area, I went back later and I was able to talk to some of the neighbors, and especially around the buzz of the skate park. And I agree with every comment about how good it is. It does, there's a sense of community. It gives kids an outlet. And I think there is pride in community. And then also, I think it's equally important, well, obviously physical activity, as someone said, I can't remember who said, physical activity also raises the grade point averages in the school. So that's, I just see all the benefits in that. I think the space, I think your team did a really good job in finding the right size, the right space. And there is just such a high need in this very dense neighborhood, and the kids now have a place to go that's safe. And I look forward to, there are plans to look in areas for what we call pocket parks, small parks in areas where they don't have access to the bigger parks where they have to drive. So that's a really good, I'm really excited about that. But I really appreciate that you came out, because it really shows that we are moving in the right direction. And I am in agreement, we do need another skate park after this one. So I appreciate your comments, and I think your team did a great job in the design, the development, and I'm excited about having this in my district.
I had the opportunity to be at the ribbon cutting of the skate park on Washington. And one of the things that really struck me were the teenagers, the kids, the skaters. Let's take a picture. So excited to see something that they had been waiting for years to happen. And immediately it came up, when are we going to have another one? When are we going to have another one? Because the need is there, and I don't think that any comment has suggested there's not a need for that. I believe that we should invest in safe, positive spaces for our youth, and that this place can be a meaningful improvement for the families and the young people in that neighborhood. But nonetheless, I think we need to pay attention to some of the questions that have been raised, that if there are issues with information, et cetera, that we do our due diligence to make sure that everyone is informed. And I'm not saying that staff didn't do that. All I'm saying is that if there is a question, then let's make sure that we get all the information out there. But I think this is a great project. I will be supporting the project tonight, and I look forward to ribbon cutting and see the youth, the skaters out there. I was a skater when I was a kid, not that I was any good, but and I wouldn't go now because I'd probably end up with a broken arm or 2 broken arms, et cetera, et cetera. But I really look forward to seeing this come to fruition as we move forward in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who spoke. I do. So during COVID, I know that we had a lot of skaters in our complex, and parents said, "Hey, we got to have them here. They have nowhere to go." And when Washington Park, and unfortunately, there was times of vandalism, or skaters would be coming at 6 in the morning or 11 at night. And when Washington Park opened up, though, I think it made such an improvement to everyone's lives, not just the residents who were able to get a little bit of peace, but the idea that their kids, teenage boys typically, or all teenagers, they knew where they were. Washington Park, they were on the streets, they weren't in the complexes grinding on, whatever poles they set out. So I think there's definitely a benefit to it. That being said, we definitely need to make sure that everybody in the community is heard. Whatever outreach is necessary to do, we need to make sure that we have everyone's input, especially the people who live in that area. I think that's super important. So, there's always room for improvement. And I know that we'll get there. So, thank you all.
So I'm really excited that this is on the agenda because it has been a few years in the making, and even Washington Park, I participated in those meetings, and they did incorporate a lot of the elements that the skater community wanted, like the red brick features, things like that. So it was very much a community-led, driven process, and I just love that the skater community came out and really was part of the design and the features and the celebration. And I love Washington Park's in my district, so I love seeing it just a popular destination and being used. And I was really excited when we decided where are we going to put the next one, because we do want to continue to have more skate spots and just more park amenities. And all of my colleagues, I know we all share the same passion for wanting to have more of that in our community. So continue to show up, continue to be organized, and tell us what you want, because so let us know and don't get tired of telling us. And if there's ever an issue with like outreach or not getting responses, you can always just don't worry about nudging us. If for some reason one of your communications doesn't get answered, try again. If that doesn't work, your council members are here. You can look up what your council member is, or sometimes I even get inquiries from other districts, and we're happy to inquire as to why you haven't received a response. So definitely utilize us as resources. But yes, I'm very excited. I want us to continue to see more skate parks in our city, and this area of Escondido really does need more park amenities. They definitely need a skate park, and I saw just all the love and attention that we gave to Washington Park, how busy that park is, and how people say once, when I was little, I couldn't come here as a kid. My parents didn't let me, and then now it's like, revitalized and flourishing. I really have a vision to really see that across all our parks in our city. So I will also be enthusiastically supporting this. And I do know New Line also designed, right? So same process. I know they had meetings with the community, right? Everything was very similar to kind of the process for Washington Park. Is that correct?
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
we had 6 different community meetings.
Great.
Yeah.
So opportunity for that, and if we need to expand maybe the reach of our, I'm open to exploring the minimum 100 feet radius of contact. So I will look into that to see if we can do more. And then we now have a full-time social media person, so I feel like you will be getting more communications about lots of our city efforts going forward. So we've heard you, and we are working on a lot of those things that were brought up this evening. So thank you for your passion. I can tell this is very deeply personal and important to you all, and I'm glad that you're enjoying our parks. Continue to be in our city, promote our city, and we'll see you at the new skate park when it's built.
I'm going to make my comments brief and make a motion to approve item number 5 and ask for a motion and second. Please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
All right. Item 7 has been continued. Item 8 is a continued public hearing, which is open, and the time is yours.
I think you're good now. Yeah.
It's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of City Council. My name is Kevin Snyder, and I'm your Development Services Director. Thank you for the opportunity to come back before you this evening. This evening is a continuation of the public hearing that occurred on April 8th, 2026. And at the conclusion of that public hearing, the Mayor and City Council continued the public hearing and asked for some additional information. So we're back before you this evening to provide that information and answer any questions you might have. I'm going to quickly go through just a little bit of background and then move into some potential decision-making options for the City Council. So, as the Council may remember, the City received a request by Mr. Maury Golshay asking to revoke a prior project condition of approval that required the payment of $560,000 for the construction of a new traffic signal at Rock Springs Road and Lincoln Avenue. This provides several decision-making opportunities for the City Council, as I'll describe in just a moment. As a reminder, this project is at 900 West Mission Avenue. It is highlighted in the hatched orange on the screen, and the intersection of Rock Springs Road and Lincoln Avenue is highlighted by the star also on the screen. This project was previously approved for a convenience market and gasoline fuel station, and right now is currently being promoted as a 7-Eleven branded convenience market and fuel pump station. So to orient the Council, as you may remember, this project was initially approved by the City Council in January of 2021. At that time, the project received multiple approvals, including a general plan amendment approval, a zoning map amendment approval, and a conditional use permit. At that time, conditions of approval were applied and approved by City Council that required multiple infrastructure improvements, including frontage improvements along the project sites, Mission Street frontage, the installation of a traffic signal at Rock Springs and Lincoln Avenue, and the installation of a protected left turn lane at Rock Springs and Mission. In December of 2024, Mr. Golshay came back before the City Council asking for the waiving of the obligation to construct the signal at Rock Springs and Lincoln. Following deliberations, the City Council decided to specify a maximum contribution of $560,000 and to waive the requirements for the frontage improvements along Mission Avenue and Rock Springs and Mission protected left turn lane. Fast forward to 2026, Mr. Golshay came to staff via the city clerk's office and asked for reconsideration of the condition requiring the payment of the $560,000 that I previously referenced. The City Council held the initial public hearing on April 8th and continued the public hearing until this evening. We have publicly noticed tonight's public hearing in accordance with city and statutory requirements. So this is a continuation of a public hearing, but it was duly noticed. So next I want to talk to you a little bit about some decision-making paths. When I last came before you on April 8th, we were talking specifically about the Rock Springs and Lincoln traffic signal and the potential for fair share contributions by Mr. Golshay. And at that time, the City Council discussed and asked for some additional information. So there are really two decision-making paths that the City Council could pursue. And there's really three primary decision-making options. There's actually lots of variations of decisions the council could make, but when you distill them down, there's three primary. And so tonight I want to focus on that, those three primary, and walk you through that. These options are specified in the resolution that is attached to tonight's agenda staff report, and that's Resolution 2026-64. The council has the discretion, if they so choose, to adopt this resolution with these options identified in that resolution, and any option that you might identify and adopt as part of your motion action would be memorialized in the meeting minutes. So we've tried to structure it so that the council has options, but you could take action this evening via the adoption of the resolution. So decision-making path number one. Decision-making path number one is to retain the requirement the council established in December of 2024. This required the payment of $560,000, which was a maximum contribution by the applicant. And this would be applied towards the signal, new traffic signal at Rock Springs Road and Lincoln Avenue. At the previous meeting, council and mayor asked for estimated city costs. So in this particular option, we estimate that the city cost will be approximately $340,000 for a total cost of approximately $900,000 to construct and install the new traffic signal. If you decided this was the option you wanted to choose, then there is no reason to go to any other decision-making path. But for purposes of helping the council in its consideration, I now want to talk about the potential other path available to council. So the other path is very similar. Number A on your screen is very similar to what we discussed at the last meeting. This will be a fair share contribution by the developer. He has proposed the payment of $50,000 in cash plus $50,000 of assigned value of the approved traffic plans. The engineering team did go through a review process and did approve those traffic signal plans. And if those plans were given to the city, assigned to the city, then that does provide an opportunity for the city to move more quickly into the construction phase of that new signal. Alternately, and in the vein of all things being on the table, the City Council could consider a different approach on fair share. It would be comprised of the fair share contribution for the Rock Springs and Lincoln Avenue signal, the reinstatement of the Mission Avenue frontage improvements, which we estimate approximately $500,000 of cost, and then a fair share contribution in the amount of $150,000 to what we estimate is approximately $600,000 of city construction costs for that protected left turn lane at Rock Springs and Mission. That would make the developer applicant's contribution approximately $750,000. The city cost would be approximately $1.25 million. That's comprised of the $800,000 for the Rock Springs and Lincoln Avenue signal and $450,000, which is the remaining 75% of the cost of that Rock Springs and Mission protected left turn lane. So again, there are two distinct decision-making paths with, like I said, three primary options. At this point, staff is happy to answer any questions. We do have continued public hearings, so there may be individuals that want to speak. Staff is happy to answer any questions following the receipt of any public comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on. Mr. Golche, did you have comments you'd like to make?
Sorry for this. Today is actually the 4 weeks that I had a knee replacement surgery, and somehow miraculously I had the energy and the ability to be in front of you. I know you've been so gracious with your time. I don't know if you want to just, maybe I should answer your question, or maybe take 1 minute to just wrap up my situation. Is that when we originally came in front of you about 5.5 years ago, all the conditions you put forth, I did not object anything. And I said, of course, happily I will do that. 5.5 years is taken. During these 5.5 years, my son, who was single on that time, found a woman, dated, has 2 kids, his wife is pregnant again. And then we haven't seen much improvement on this. There are many, many reasons. I don't want to get to that. But really our only option left, there's one bank out of state. He says that the only way is that if you don't do anything on this, even the $50,000 that we suggested, he says, no, but I come up with the $50,000 to pay. It's a fair share. And please consider 7-Eleven is coming from across the street to here. It's not that it's a new 7-Eleven. And also consider that we're building only 4,000 square foot of a building and 50,000 square foot of land. The ratio to the land to the building is very low. We really shouldn't be paying for any signal improvements, and especially that's a quarter of a mile away from us. We don't have anything to do with that. But with the goodness of your heart and our ability, the only way that it can get done, please consider that we do $50,000 and $50,000 with $100,000 contribution. It's a fair share. Let's all be fair and go forward. That's my request to you, please.
Perfect. Thank you. We might call you back up.
Okay.
Do we have any other public comments?
Yes, we have 2 speakers on this item. Stuart Reyes.
May I sit here?
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. Good evening. This is the second time in regards to the ongoing safety concerns at Rock Springs, Seven Oaks, and Borden, and I might include Lincoln. I respectfully ask where the city is at this time on this issue and whether any concrete solutions are being considered. Residents, parents, and students are still dealing with fast-moving traffic, unsafe crossings conditions every day. We understand that this project takes time, but we also don't want to wait until another tragedy happens before action is taken. I'm asking the city to provide an update and help move forward real safety improvements for this area. Thank you. I might add that I was there this evening, and if you have to make a left turn on Lincoln or heading out of town or a right turn or any of the children that I saw today, I saw kids from Rock Springs having to cross Lincoln off of Rock Springs. I don't know how they do it, how we haven't had any more fatalities, but I hope the City Council will move forward with adding something on that corner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Our next speaker is James Lockhart.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council. Wanted to speak on the intersection of Rock Springs and Lincoln. I'm a 20-year homeowner in that particular neighborhood. I want to make it clear that I'm not per se against the gas station project. That will be an improvement compared to the existing store. But the dangers that are inherent at Rock Springs and Lincoln in its present configuration, some type of creative change needs to be made in that geographic area. And And that's what I would hope that the council could look at as options to consider their 25 mile per hour speed limit between Mission and the school for that whole stretch. A roundabout instead of a signal at Rock Springs and Lincoln to keep traffic flowing on any evening from 5 to about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. The existing traffic will be backed up on Rock Springs Road all the way to Lincoln. And if you add another stopping point on Rock Springs Road, that's going to back things further up into Washington than it presently is. So there's something needs to change in that area, and it's just what options can be thrown out there to make an improvement. It's not necessarily with the advent of the applications on cell phones diverting traffic around traffic jams. Anytime there is a problem on the 15 South, we get all of the traffic coming off the 15 at El Norte, and they're cutting through Seven Oaks, Lincoln, trying to get around the 7815 interchange there. So here again, there's a much higher density of traffic than there's ever been before. Additionally, within the last 3 months, San Diego Gas and Electric replaced a wood utility pole in the 800 block of Rock Springs Road in Lincoln. It's right on the corner. They replaced a 18, 20-inch diameter wood pole with probably a 28 diameter steel pole, and they moved it much closer to the intersection, which affects the sight lines coming out of Lincoln to the traffic going on Rock Springs Road. So here again, something needs to be adjusted within that intersection. Some improvements need to be made. And I look forward to whatever considerations can be thrown. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. No further public comments on this.
So I just want to remind council that the topic is the topic that we presented here. I understand there may be intersection conversations, but we are not prepared to get into that level of conversation tonight. So I just want to make sure that we're staying on the topic and not going to another topic.
All right, I'll close the public hearing. And any questions, comments from the council? Go ahead.
I'll start this off. Thank you, everyone who's been involved in this. It's been a very long process, and I appreciate everyone's expertise and their input. First off, I want to just say up front that I was the one that initially voted against the initial recommendation, which is number 1. So obviously, I'm not going to be in favor of that. 2B obviously is going to be an increase in the cost. The issue with the developer is that there's the cost. The increase in costs doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. So I'm an advocate, and I've been an advocate for option A, which is the fair share, since I think the very beginning. I didn't know what it was called at first when we first discussed it, but I think it makes the most sense. We're looking at $100,000 plus the estimated cost of the city. I do have a question, and I want this for everyone's edification. If the city were to pursue this independently, my concern is that, let me back up a little bit. My concern is that if the developer does not get this approved, or if we can't move forward with something that I think is reasonable to the applicant, my concern is that the developer will drop out and we will not have any signal there for an indefinite amount of time, unless the city were to move forward with this independently. My question is, how long would it take for the city, let's say the developer pulls out of this completely, how long would it be for the city to build this, and how much would that cost?
So if the developer is no longer involved and we do not have access to the approved traffic plans, because those are actually the intellectual property of the engineer of record, we would have to design and construct the project. What I would tell you is that typically that would take several years potentially, but we've talked internally and we will prioritize this project and try to get through it as quickly as possible. I do not want to steal thunder from conversations to be had later in the evening regarding our capital improvement budget proposals, but we have put a project in there in the event of what you just described, Councilmember, were to happen.
Okay. And if we were to move forward with getting something approved tonight, how long would that be, I guess, in comparison? And what would be the cost difference? That's the other question. So the time difference and the cost difference if we move forward.
So if we move forward, we estimate that it'll cost approximately $900,000. So that would be the cost to the city, which again we are referencing in our capital improvement budget proposal. We would move as quickly as possible to get the design done. It's a focused intersection, so we could move as quickly as possible. We have resources available to us through consultant services where we could prioritize that. I would hope that in, say, a 12 to 16-month period, we would be able to get through the design, the bidding, and the construction activity and have it functioning hopefully at the end of that period.
Okay. So we could safely say that it would be a more costly and more lengthy process if the developer were no longer in the picture.
Yes.
Okay. That is my concern. It's been my concern. I think, as what the speakers have said, is that something needs to be done there, and it needs to be done there as quickly as possible. Look, everyone knows that when government says it's going to take however long, you could double it, and that's probably a safe assumption. I don't want to wait any longer for something to be there. I don't want there to be more safety issues, or heaven forbid, a year and a half from now, we have an accident there that we could have prevented by putting a light there more expeditiously. That's my biggest concern. If future bidder were to come in, who knows what they would negotiate if they would have the same problem and it would drag out this even longer. And at that point in the future, we know that the cost is going to go up. My proposal is 2A. I think the one that we're looking at is the most reasonable. I just want to get this done. I want to get this a safety improvement there as quickly as possible. And like I said from the very beginning, I've always been an advocate for fair share, and I think this is something that's reasonable. So I'll leave my comments there.
Well, is it Mr. Goshen? So let me see what page it is that I was looking at as far as the timeline. So essentially, the way I interpret this is the initial amount that was required was based on the fair share as far as the development impact and the infrastructure, and the amount has to be proportionate to the impact. So that was how it first came out. And then you came to the council and they basically gave you a really good discount, right? And so now you don't have to do all the frontage improvements and some other things there on Rock Springs and Mission. And you had agreed to do this on Rock Springs and Lincoln. So what has happened between then and now that you think that we should even reduce the fair share amount?
That's a very fair, very great question. And that is time. Because every day that passes, the mortgage, the taxes you have to pay, the income you don't have from a property, it was supposed to be in all of our projection was supposed to be 1 year. And in 1 year, we had the city approved. The city went through the COVID. 80% of our architect engineer office, which is actually a local guy, Mr. Chris Post, either died or just moved away. And his office was, I don't want to take more time because I've written a very, very detailed letters explaining what has happened that took this 5.5 years. So the project has been really broke. I've never, ever been through this situation in my life. I've been in business 40 years, never lost any property in foreclosure. I never would let it happen. There was one project, lost a lot of money. I came in from my pocket, I paid that. I'm a very responsible guy. This is my legacy I want to leave. If this was not necessary, if the money was there to do that, we would gladly do that. The real estate market has changed. The cap rate has greatly risen. So the value of the building is less, and then enormous cost of 5.5 years has depleted all of our funds. I can show it to you. I can send you all this. I've been just borrowing from my friends, and they They've been very good. They've been lending me money, and I will pay every penny to them, of course. It's just that the time it took to get to here is washed all the profit, washed any possibility, and just doesn't have the money to do this.
All right, so, I mean, it sounds like you're trying to say that there were things beyond your control that occurred, and I appreciate that. The thing that I have to take into consideration, though, is that I don't believe that it's going to be the city's responsibility to make up for that hardship by reducing even more, more from the original fair share. Does that make sense?
I completely understand, but you see, when you look at it, that even was a very unfair thing to ask. If somebody wants on a piece of land, which is 1 acre, to build 4,000 square foot of a building, no city, I've never ever seen that obligates you to build another red light quarter of a mile away. It has nothing to do with us. So when you talk about fairness, and this is a great city, we all love that. I'm sure that when you leave this job that you have, you want to know that everything you have done was fair, because you represent the government, of course, and then also you represent the people. What needs to happen has to be fair. If it's not fair, and if the money is not there to pay for it, it's just not going to happen.
Okay. Well, you were saying as far as where they came up with this. I mean, there is case law. 2 cases, as a matter of fact, it's Nolan and Dolan regarding fair share. That's where that came. So it's not us as a city making this up and requiring. So,
in my experience, I have never seen that. And I have a lot of developer friends. Okay. I've never seen that somebody goes develop intersection quarter of a mile away.
All right, I appreciate that. That's pretty standard practice. I just wanted to see, as far as understand what happened between then and now, how you did get a really good deal, actually, and then some things happened. But I just don't feel comfortable having the city take on that amount because it is going to have an impact. There is going to be traffic. So we will eventually, I think we should be taking care of the Lincoln and Rock Springs intersection because that is a public safety issue. But as far as that intersection at Rock Springs and Mission, where initially it was having to be responsible for the improvements and that turn lane, that would still need to be completed, at least the turn lane. So I'm just not comfortable. I think if I were you, I would keep with what was offered. I'm not comfortable with going with the new request.
Can I also ask you one question, please?
Sure.
Do you think it's fair?
I do, because I'm thinking of how we did work with you. We gave you a discount. It is expensive, but this is a business venture. And again, the hardship, we as a city cannot take that on because that is something that we'd have to be able to offer everybody that wants to build. And again, that's taxpayer money that we're putting aside and giving you that big discount. And I just don't feel comfortable doing that. But thank you for your answer.
It's clear that we need a signal, and it's a public safety issue that we have, that we are aware of. And I would like to see it done as soon as possible. I also hear the concern that it's a quarter mile away for this, the light put in there. But I don't think we can separate just that from all the conditions that were removed to get to this. Because we're talking entrusted taxpayer money to us, and then if another developer comes and then just says, well, you know what, guess what, things have changed and I don't have any more money, so don't charge me anything other than $100,000, and all the $750,000 that you discounted, well, let's tack it on top too. I have a difficult time with that. That would be fair regarding this. If this doesn't, I think it's the city's responsibility, if this would not move forward, that we try to get a signal for public safety there as soon as possible. We should be responsible. We are responsible for that if this wouldn't work. But just to say, well, we're going to discount it even further, I have a serious concern with that.
May I ask you a question, please? Do you think that city should also pay us for all the time they delayed and this project got delayed, which is one of the key reasons there is no money, and all the time that because of the COVID, the city was shut down, we could not get hold of anyone, and the project got delayed. Do you think it's also fair for the city to pay their fair share of delaying this project?
I'm going to go ahead and skip that question, if that's all right, and move on to the next person. I just have a couple of simple questions. Can you speak to the frontage improvements? What are they and the necessity of them or not?
So typically when a development project comes through the process, staff assesses the status of the frontage infrastructure relative to adopted city standards for different types of roadways. And so in this instance, while there are some public improvements out there, it was determined that there would be a need for additional public improvements, addition of landscaping, addition of or expansion of curb and gutter, and also the undergrounding of a existing power pole.
Are all of the utilities around there underground?
No, it's a mixture depending on where you're at. So, for example, if you go east along the Lowe's frontage, when that project came in, they did underground. If you go the other direction, you will see on both sides of the road where there are existing overhead power lines. So it's an inconsistent pattern, just depending. Typically, the undergrounding is normally done as part of a development project, unless the city, as part of a capital project, chooses to take on that cost.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I am going to come back to this in just a second, but go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Can we go back a slide? There was a slide that I want to look at, but I don't know which one it was. No, not that one. Okay, but right here is fine. So, and thank you to the residents that spoke. I know that area of just Rock Springs in general, broad, to Lincoln and in between is just a very, it needs a lot of attention. So I hear you on that, and that is something that we will discuss in another few traffic safety conversations as well. So, Mr. Golchek, so this project has been going on for a while, and so you got the project approval in January 2021. That's COVID was still a thing then, but it's about a year into the pandemic. You're not the only business, you're not the only applicant who was impacted by the pandemic. Everyone who had a business was impacted by that pandemic. So you're not singled out in that way. So I just want to say that while it's sad to see that many businesses struggled, people died during the pandemic. It was a very sad time in our history that we all experienced, right? So it's not unique to you or your project. I also recall that for a long time, and I know our permitting takes a while, and everyone, again, that has a permit within our city has the same thing. They're also waiting for their permit, so it's not unique to you. And they're not asking us to pay or reimburse them or give them discounts or subsidize them in any way. So I'll just say that. You're the only one with that request at this time. For a long time, I also saw that the property was vacant for a while. We had some nuisance issues. Police were called. We had to kind of get your attention to do something about that property as well. So I just want to say, there was also issues the city was having with you and your property that took a little bit of time. So it goes both ways, okay? And I remember things. In 2024, we made the decision, and for a year, you knew the decision. You could have, if you were not happy with the decision, which, by the way, I think the city was generous in waiving certain conditions for you, and that was the compromise that we gave. So I feel like we negotiated. You asked for something, the city negotiated, and we decided to give you those, waiving the frontage improvements, that you would still be responsible for partially funding that Rock Springs and Lincoln Light. So that was a negotiation. We voted on it, okay? For about a year, you've been sending messages to my, on my website, on my personal email. When a decision has been made, I don't appreciate the kind of communication of like, hey, please make, there's a whole process for it, and I don't appreciate for a year you sending me emails in my personal account asking me to reconsider this. I don't find that professional, and I don't think that's how a professional does business. And you're a seasoned investor and a seasoned businessman, and maybe for this one, it wasn't a good investment. But you have options, sir. You have options. You could sell, but we made a deal when we voted on this on the city council, and it's taking staff time. It's taking our time. I feel like we've been very generous with you. I don't see how it benefits the city for us to give you more subsidies or waive other concessions. So you have, I think, so I will not be supporting additionally funding or giving any kind of waivers or concessions for this. The more time that passes, the more expensive it's going to get. Had you in December 2024 kind of proceeded, and instead of trying to fight us on a decision that we made, started kind of going through your project, things might, not cost as much. So at the end of the day, some business investments are good, some are not. It's not my responsibility as a council member to ensure that you make, money. It is what it is. And I feel like we've been more than fair, and I hope not to continue to bring this back. And I feel like we've spent a lot of time. So I wish you well in whatever it is, but you do have the power to make a decision on what you do with your land and your property and your investments. And unfortunately, it seems like this wasn't, what you expected. But I stand by my original decision and vote, and I will move to maintain pretty much status quo on this, continue, not make any changes, and just honor our original vote, which is what? Is option number one?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember.
Thank you.
It has a motion and second. Any other comments or questions from the council?
I do have one more comment, and this is just sometimes staff, again, was overworked. There's things that happen, but I just want to point out, as far as you saying that staff was not getting back to you and the pandemic. Sir, the pandemic ended in May of 2023, and you were given this a great deal in December of 2024. So I understand that sometimes there is a slowdown in the process, but I'm very confident that the staff was doing the best they could, depending on what it is that you were providing and how you were communicating with them. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Would you repeat that, please?
Yes, so my motion is for option number one, which is to maintain our original the decision of the original vote.
Okay, and that has a second. Please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 4-1. Councilmember Christian Garcia, no.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to current business, and the first item under current business is the Community Services Department user fee update.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the City Council. For the record, I'm Robert Rhodes, Assistant Director of Community Services, and tonight I'm going to be providing an update on the Community Services Department user fees approved by the City Council in 2024, and to evaluate whether the fee changes achieve their intended impacts. Tonight's presentation is organized around three main points. First, a quick recap of prior council direction. Second, a review of the implementation results, including how revenue, participation, and program behavior responded. And then finally, key observations and corresponding staff recommendations. With that in mind, let's quickly review tonight's agenda. This informational update provides a more detailed review of Community Services Department fees. While no action is requested this evening, the intent is for the City Council to have clear and consistent information on outcomes that will inform future fee-setting conversations. So following the presentation, I will ask for feedback around staff recommended actions. But first, let's begin by reviewing the City Council's previous direction. In July of 2024, the City Council approved a comprehensive update to the Community Services Department fee schedule. The direction was to better align our fees with cost of service delivery by moving programs and rentals towards a full cost recovery or top of market pricing model. In cases where comparable data was not available, a 10% increase was applied. To prepare our stakeholders for these changes, staff implemented a 60-day notification period with an update of fees becoming effective during the launch of the fall 2024 registration period. This timing actually aligned with the department's normal program cycle, thereby minimizing the mid-season impacts. Council also directed staff to monitor the effects of these changes and return with updates on performance, participation, and community feedback. However, before we look at the specific outcomes, it is really important to first have a clear understanding of what cost recovery actually means. A key component of this discussion this evening is the concept of full cost recovery. In practice, no agency truly recovers every dollar it spends on a program. The term refers to a target, not an absolute. Agencies across California and the country each define and calculate cost recovery differently, meaning there's no standardized approach. So when we compare our rates to other cities, we're comparing methodologies as much as we are comparing results. Here is the key policy context that relates to Escondido. Council has established a very clear pricing direction that distinguishes between service types. Facilities are intended to achieve direct cost recovery, ensuring that users fully cover the operational costs associated with exclusive use of our city facilities. Programs and activities, by contrast, are generally priced at the top of the market, reflecting demand, comparisons with neighboring agencies, and the ability of these offerings to offset a larger share of costs. Together, these pricing strategies reduce reliance on the general fund. These fees help offset the cost of delivery for community services, but they don't replace general fund support entirely. To put our position into perspective, nationally, Parks and Recreation departments recover only about 27% of their costs through user fees. Escondido's, on the other hand, our average is 44.8%. This reflects a very deliberate approach to pricing and emphasizes fiscal responsibility while still maintaining the broad community access to programs and facilities. So with this framework in mind, I would like to take a look at how the revenue breaks down across categories and where fee changes have had some of the most impacts. In fiscal year 2025, the Community Services Department generated just under $1.94 million in total user fee revenue. And here's how the breakdown goes by category. The largest share, just over 60%, comes from programs and activities like aquatics, camps, sports, and classes. Our facility and park rentals account for another 30%. Together, these two categories represent over 90% of overall revenue, with the remaining categories, administrative fees, permits, and donations, make up the relatively small portion of about 10%. So now let's take a look at how revenue has trended over the last 5 years. This chart shows user fee revenue over the past 5 fiscal years. However, it is really important to note that our starting point, fiscal year 2021, was a COVID recovery year. So the $843,000 figure reflects a period when many programs were still ramping back up and facility usage was highly limited. That makes this a low baseline rather than a typical year for us. From fiscal year 2022 onward, revenue has grown steadily from $1.69 million to just under the $1.94 I discussed earlier, reflecting a consistent year-over-year increase averaging approximately 4.5% annually, with individual gains generally ranging between 3 and 6%. However, not all fees are within our direct control. And so next, we'll look at the scope of influence the city has over the fee framework and the external factors that come into play. This slide helps explain the city can and cannot control setting fees, which is an important context when evaluating revenue and participation results. About 65% of within this area is under our influence, including cost recovery targets, pricing philosophy, and subsidy decisions such as safety-sensitive or senior programming. The remaining 35% is constrained by outside factors like fee pricing set by our independent contractors, which account for approximately 25% of our overall revenue, along with market demand and the pass-through fees in the remaining fee categories. So for the purposes of this presentation, I will only be discussing revenue and participation within the program and activities and facilities and park rental categories. So while the council direction plays a significant role in fee setting, revenue outcomes also reflect specific market realities that are beyond our control. So this context helps explain why some programs adjusted smoothly while others experienced sharper participation changes. Participation trends varied across a variety of different programs and are closely tied to changes in access, pricing, and availability. For example, our open swim program participation increased as a result of expanded swim hours, which directly reflected increased capacity and improved public access. The lap swim participation also increased, aligning with adjustments to membership pricing that strongly influenced high-volume users. Our adult hockey revenue also rose following the closure of a regional hockey program, which increased the number of teams participating in our Escondido-based program. Open gym participation experienced a slight growth as well, supported by a diverse mixture of drop-in activities that maximized facility utilization and attracted a broader range of users. Overall, the data demonstrates that shifts in participation can also be driven by access, availability, and program structure rather than fee changes alone. However, not all programs responded the same way. Unlike the programs on the previous slide, these activities experienced changes driven by pricing, capacity constraints, and shifts in participation trends. For example, our Learn to Swim program declined by nearly 1,000 participants, while other programs experienced only modest decreases. This decline is likely related to the pricing at the top of the market. Similarly, the youth soccer program saw a reduction in the 3 to 4-year-old age division, where increases in fees appear to have affected participation due to a perceived imbalance between price and value. Our camp program saw a decline in participation, but this was likely due to the limited staffing and facility capacity issues and were not pricing related, as the waitlist reached about 50% of our total enrollments. This limitation restricted program availability rather than reflecting actual demand. The skate park experienced the most significant decline, with participation dropping by more than 70%, capping a 3-year trend of declines following the construction of the free Washington Park skate spot. As a result of the participation drop and concerns over aging infrastructure, the skate park was demolished in January of 2026. Taken together, these patterns identify specific areas where pricing, capacity, and participation trends may warrant further adjustment and to better align with offerings with community demand and expectations. These trends are most likely a clear reflection in the Learn to Swim program, where the changes had a measurable impact in participation. Highlighted here is one of the clearest examples of price sensitivity identified in our data. Participation in the Learn to Swim program declined substantially, coinciding with a shift toward our top-of-market pricing that places a greater share of the program costs on participants rather than the lower to mid-range pricing that was traditionally used to encourage participation. When compared with our neighboring municipalities, instruction lengths are generally consistent, thereby allowing for a more direct and like-for-like comparison. With drowning identified as a leading cause of accidental death among young children and swim lessons shown to reduce risk by as much as 88% according to the American Red Cross, this highlights the importance of how pricing for the Learn to Swim program supports participation and access. Next, I'll be comparing the park and facilities and reflecting on the strong performance overall, along with a couple of areas of opportunity. Generally speaking, the park and facility rentals performed very strongly, increasing revenue by 7.7%, with several areas showing solid growth. Field rentals, picnic areas, and hockey rinks all experienced measurable revenue growth, reflecting a sustained demand, effective pricing, and consistent utilization. At the Sports Center Soccer Arena in Kit Carson Park, revenue declined. However, expanded availability followed the reduction in use by a single non-Escondido-based renter that had previously occupied the facility up to 7 days per week. The department sees this actually as a positive opportunity by creating for Escondido-based groups, increasing access and diversifying our user base despite lower overall revenue. However, based on the current rental trends, revenue is expected to rebound in the current fiscal year. Taken together, these results reflect a combined effects of pricing strategies and strong underlying demand for park and facility rentals, while also pointing to areas where usage patterns suggest opportunities for future improvement. Highlighted here are facilities where some performance challenges have definitely emerged. At the Park Avenue Community Center, for example, multiple user groups discontinued rentals entirely, citing significant cost increases from prior fee schedule, disproportionately affecting Escondido-based senior groups, which traditionally paid well below those market rates. Similar concerns were expressed regarding city pools and tennis court rental rates, where significant declines were noted in usage and rental revenue, suggesting sensitivity to pricing and access. Whereas shifts in usage at the amphitheater continues to rely on a single season renter, resulting in unused capacity for much of the year and limited revenue diversification at that particular facility. Collectively, these trends suggest that certain facilities are more sensitive to pricing and access that may affect usage and demand. Among these are the Park Avenue Community Center, where it stands out as a key example, where participation losses and user feedback provide some important insights for future consideration. The Park Avenue Community Center, home of our Escondido Senior Center, experienced one of the most pronounced declines in rental activity. As shown, multiple user groups discontinued rentals entirely, resulting in a measurable drop in both bookings and overall utilization. Several of the groups most affected were price-sensitive, Escondido-based senior special interest organizations, including but not limited to a knitting group, a fishing club, and a local plant society. These groups typically operated with limited budgets and relied on affordable, consistent meeting space. As rental costs increased, continued use of the facility was no longer sustainable for them. The loss of these smaller groups, reoccurring senior groups, had clear impacts on the facility, including increased unused capacity, reduced day-to-day activation, and fewer repeat users. Overall, this reduced scheduling diversity and contributed to longer periods of underutilized space. The data suggests there is a growing mismatch between pricing levels and the perceived value for the community. These facility-level impacts revealed broader patterns in user response to pricing changes and provide a foundation for examining pricing decisions and demand sensitivity. So what we're seeing is overall is participation doesn't respond the same way across all programs or facilities. Some programs are relatively stable, while others respond very quickly to pricing changes. Even small fee increases can have big impacts on price-sensitive users, especially families with young children and seniors. We saw that clearly with the Learn to Swim and the 3 to 4-year-old youth soccer program, where relatively modest changes coincided with noticeable drops in enrollment. We also saw it at the Park Avenue Community Center, where price-sensitive senior groups stopped renting altogether. The impacts on Escondido residents, particularly seniors and families, vary widely, with price sensitivity driving changes in participation and facility use. At the same time, we also observed expanded access in certain areas, with residents benefiting from increased availability at the Escondido Sports Center soccer arena and open swim programs. All of these examples reinforce that pricing decisions shape participation and equitable access in different ways across programs, facilities, and user groups. This highlights the need to balance financial sustainability with participation, recognizing that pricing is not just a revenue decision, but also a tool that shapes access and the community outcomes. Given these observations, the next slide outlines staff recommendations for balancing price, access, and participation. Based on the key observations seen in the previous slide, staff are recommending the following. First, our Learn to Swim program pricing warrants distinct consideration. As a life safety program, the data suggests that mid-market pricing approach better supports participation and access rather than top-of-market strategies, which may discourage enrollment among families and young children. Second, the analysis reinforces the importance of recognizing price sensitivity by program type and audience. Even modest fee increases associated with noticeable participation declines in several areas, this underscores the need for more targeted and flexible pricing responses rather than a uniform adjustments applied broadly when participation drops exceed thresholds such as 25%. Third, the senior center pricing reflects similar consideration. Given the higher price sensitivity among our seniors, discounted fees may help affordability, participation, and stable use of facilities serving our older adults. Finally, staff recommends using Consumer Price Index or CPI-based adjustments as a baseline for future facility pricing beginning in fiscal year 2028, as we continue to gather an additional year of data on this point. These smaller CPI-aligned increases can help minimize significant pricing changes, which impacts participation as well as improves transparency and promotes long-term pricing and stability for users. Together, these recommendations provide a balanced approach that supports access, maintains participation, and promotes pricing stability for many of our user groups. In conclusion, staff requests the City Council receive and file the Community Services Department user fee update, reflecting the findings and analysis presented here today, as well as to provide feedback on staff recommendation for pricing strategies. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments?
None.
Okay. I'll open it up for questions and comments. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I appreciate when you said that fees are a tool that shapes access and makes an impact. I like that the first one to come up as far as your staff recommendation would be the Learn to Swim program, because that is very important and it is for the safety of the children, especially during the summer season. So I think that was really good. And then also focusing on the seniors. So thank you for the presentation and good work.
Learn to Swim program was one that we discussed because in order to, the way we were discussing it back then for cost recovery, we were talking hundreds of dollars. If I remember correctly, about $400 for the session, for the class. So we decided to do something closer to top comparison to other jurisdictions. But having 1,000 kids drop out, I think it's definitely a safety issue that we need to look at. Now, also on the other end, which is a good thing for our community, that we have the YMCA and I believe the fire department is partnering together with the school districts for a basic swim or a water safety program. But I would definitely support that, the request that staff is doing together with the seniors, because I have heard from the seniors that they were being priced out of usage. So direction for me is please move forward, do the analysis, and then if necessary, come back with results for us. Thank you.
I'll be quick. I love your recommendations, and the only feedback I have heard is about the senior center and the pricing for rentals. So I appreciate that we're trying to switch to a differentiated approach, and I support this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the swim program is especially important to me for personal reasons. So I love the recommendations. Thank you so much. I'll be supporting it.
Thank you for this research. I was wondering what the impact would be. I have heard of the different meeting rooms. I know of some groups who stopped meeting just because it was a huge change. In the rental fees, in the agenda, there's Class E, D. At the moment, where are we at with the categories? What are the current fees that we charge? Is it Class E?
Class E is considered our commercial rate. That is the top rate. That is the full cost recovery rate.
Okay.
And then from there, it goes down to each individual level by 10%. So the next level down, D would be a 10% reduction, C would be a 20% reduction.
Okay,
and
got it. So depending on the user group.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I will just say that so commercial. Okay, so that's like maybe like a private entity, not a nonprofit?
That's correct.
Okay.
It would be it's a non-Escondido resident, more like a private company that's coming in
Got it.
to
Okay,
rent the
that's fine.
space.
Okay, because I was going to say that's very high. But good. Thanks for reminding me about the distinction on that. And then for the seniors, I think that's great, 50%. The price-sensitive programming, so if we go back to the ones that you saw a decline in participation, can we go back to that slide?
I'm sorry, which?
There, I think that was it.
This is the...
No, there was one about, maybe this was, yeah, there it is. So on this, so for example, the price-sensitive programming prices, would it be these groups then?
That's correct.
That would be the 25% reduction, and you're going to see how that changes.
We're going to see what that looks like
Okay,
over
good.
the course of the remainder of the fiscal year and
Great.
into next fiscal year as well.
Okay, so if we need to adjust further, we'll know in a year.
That
Okay,
is
great.
correct.
I support that. Thank you for this. This was very helpful, just how you explain where it's going well, where you're seeing a clear reduction and impact. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the different tiers. And I will, if I continue to hear any additional comments, I will let you know. But this was a great presentation, and I support staff recommendation.
All right, this is just a receive and file. There's no action needed tonight, but did you get what you needed from us?
Everything, thank you.
Perfect. All right, thank you, sir. We'll move on to item 10, which is the adoption of the amended fund balance and reserve policy.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy City Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Christina Holmes, Director of Finance for the City, and this item is for amendments to the City's reserve policy. So during the presentation, I will provide an overview of the City's financial reserve policies, the recommended updates to the policy, and then at the conclusion of the presentation, request that City Council adopt resolution number 2026-85. So the purpose of the presentation is to review the recommended updates to the City of Escondido fund balance and reserve policy, and then for City Council to adopt those amendments modifying the policy. So city reserve policies play a crucial role in ensuring fiscal stability, protecting municipal operations from unforeseen economic disruptions, and provide cash flow support. Reserves can be used for capital planning to set aside resources for future infrastructure and equipment needs. Credit agencies also review reserve policies and balances to determine municipal credit ratings, which can have an impact on the amount of interest the city will pay to issue debt. Escondido's fund balance policy was adopted by the City Council on May 25th, 2011. Then in fiscal year 2016, as part of the City Council Action Plan for Fiscal Management, the City Council approved a resolution to amend the fund balance policy. This amendment established the current general fund target reserve balance of 25% of operating revenues. This goal is based on a risk-based analysis recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association to mitigate current and future risks for events such as a disaster recovery or economic downturn, adequately provide for cash flow requirements, and to fund one-time unanticipated expenditure requirements. Since the reserve policy was amended in 2016, there have been several changes in the city that we are recommending be incorporated into this policy. That is the establishment of the 115 Pension Trust, a Paramedic Services Capital Fund, and then the Measure I local district tax. The first change to the policy is to incorporate the Section 115 Pension Trust Fund. This fund was established in February of 2018. The purpose of the fund is to set aside funds to meet future pension liabilities, to provide economic relief during recessionary cycles, or to fund CalPERS rate increases. The source of funding for the Section 115 Pension Trust Fund has been from available resources from the general fund only. So the amended policy incorporates the Section 115 Pension Trust Fund into the policy to include it as a general fund reserve balance. The next amendment to the reserve policy is to establish the commitment of fund balance to fund the timely replacement of vehicles and equipment for paramedic services. This fund balance was first created in December 2023 with City Council approval of a budget adjustment for the purchase of 3 medics ambulances and related capital replacement items to support medical services. The source of funding is provided by the Ground Emergency Medical Transportation Program. This is the federally funded program that was formed in fiscal year 2023 that provides an add-on payment to ambulance transportation reimbursements. To participate in the program, agencies must also contribute an administrative fee. So in order to determine the annual commitment of funds, Finance will calculate the amount of revenue generated by the program net of administrative fees. That amount will be reported annually as part of the fiscal year financial report to Council, which usually occurs around October each year. Then those funds will be added to the fund balance for future capital purposes for the emergency medical services. The final amendment to the reserve policy is for the Measure I local district tax fund. The Measure I local district tax was approved by voters in November of 2024 and became effective in April of 2025. In this first year, there is currently about $22 million in operating costs that are funded by Measure I. Given the volatility of sales tax revenue, an operating reserve is recommended to cover cash flows in a potential economic downturn. The 16.67% recommendation is the Nationwide Government Finance Officers Association recommendation as a minimum reserve balance for this type of fund. This would be about $3.8 million using the current fiscal year budgeted expenses. In addition, as part of the close of each fiscal year, any surplus Measure I funds will be brought to the City Council for approval to commit those funds for future capital purposes and City Council initiatives. That commitment of funds can then be used as a future funding source with the affirming vote of 3 council members. And that mirrors the current general fund process that we follow each year.
And it also ensures that the Measure I funds will be kept discrete, so any fund balance at the end of the year, these will make it easier to track those funds and make sure there's no commingling of general fund and other resources.
Thank you. So the modified fund balance and reserve policy is included in the agenda packet as Exhibit A to the resolution. And then with City Council approval, the policy will then be posted to the city's website under the City Financial Policies webpage shown here. So that concludes my recommendation. We are requesting that City Council approve resolution number 2026-85, which modifies the City of Escondido fund balance and reserve policy. I'm
Thank you.
available for questions.
Do we have
Thank
any
you.
public comments?
None.
Okay. Questions and comments? Go ahead.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it. Any other questions? Please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break before the real meeting begins.
Everything under the sun, so you never know what you're going to get. Skate park or... These things come with the same like you did before. I'll have the questions up on the screens if you need to reference it. The clock will be right there, and then also it'll be on the screens. We're just going to get up there and go. Awesome. Sweet. Yay, thanks. You're here for sure. Yeah. I'll see you. Tell her to help that. Yes. Chief, how's it going? Great. Started off on the promotion ceremony. And all the families. Great. Then we'll finish with begging for someone else. I'll just, yeah. Thank you.
That'll be the next feature in AI. Are you sure you want to add a new? Do you want to add a new? Yeah. Let's think about this. Yeah. It was also
Okay, we'll go ahead and start our workshop. Time is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Christina Holmes, Director of Finance, and this evening we'll be presenting the fiscal year 2026-27 preliminary operating budget workshop. So during the presentation, we'll go through the historical general fund operating budget, the steps the city's taken to address the general fund budget deficit. We'll talk about the Measure I local district tax, present the citywide initiatives for fiscal year 2027, go through the Measure I operating budget for fiscal year 27, the general fund operating budget, and then I'll conclude with the revenue projections for both Measure I and the general fund. So the purpose of the workshop this evening is for staff to present the recommendations for the fiscal year 2027 citywide operating budget. So at the conclusion of the presentation, City Council will be asked to provide feedback and direction, and we'll plan to return to the City Council on June 17th for the adoption of the budget. So beginning with the historical operating budget. The city's general fund continues to forecast a structural budget deficit. Operating revenue in the blue trend line is not keeping pace compared to the growing costs of providing municipal services. In order to maintain city services, annual general fund budget deficits are projected to exceed $6 million annually, growing to $27 million by 2043. This forecast assumes continued moderate growth in revenue. No economic recession or retraction is included. Leading up to fiscal year 2024, the city had taken several steps to address the general fund structural budget deficit. Decreased spending was accomplished by reducing city staff by over 100 full-time employees from 2008 to 2022 as the city grew by more than 10%. Controlling pension and employee benefit costs by transferring the responsibility to employees to fund a larger portion of those total costs. Deferred maintenance on the city's parks, playgrounds, libraries, recreation centers, pools, streets, sidewalks, bridges, storm drains, fleet, and other city facilities. Since fiscal year 2024, the city has deferred vehicle and equipment replacements, used more than $8 million in reserves available from the internal service funds, and eliminated an additional 10 full-time positions in fiscal year 2025. One-time sources of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act were used to close the budget gap and fund the Center for the Arts Management Agreement for 1 fiscal year and the Library Management Agreement for 2 fiscal years. The Center for the Arts was brought back into the general fund in fiscal year 2026, and American Rescue Plan Act funding for the library is set to expire this June 2026, so funding for the library will also be brought back into the general fund. Revenue-generating opportunities have been explored and some fully implemented with the approval of the City Council. This includes joining the Paramedic Ground Emergency Medical Transportation Program, moving the user fee schedule to full cost recovery that was effective in September 2024, and the approval of a short-term rental program which began in July of 2025. Despite these efforts, operating revenue is not keeping pace with the growing costs to provide city services, and with no major changes to the city sources of revenue or operating expenses, all reserves and one-time sources of funds would have been depleted by fiscal year 2029. Then, in the November 2024 election, the citizens of Escondido provided us an opportunity to address that ongoing budget deficit and preserve programs and services with their approval of Measure I, which is a 1% general sales tax increase. This additional sales tax went into effect April 1st, 2025, and the city received its first cash distribution in June of 2025. The first full fiscal year of the tax is projected to generate $36,055,880. While the Measure I local district tax generates revenue for general government use, the ballot language specifically identified 6 priority areas for the use of Measure I revenues. The City Council recognized the importance of honoring the priorities communicated in the ballot language and approved by voters by adopting Resolution number 2025-142 on October 22nd. So utilizing both the new Measure I local district tax and general fund revenues, the fiscal year 2026 operating budget provided resources for those essential services identified in the ballot language in addition to City Council priorities. So one-time investments included funding to repair critical infrastructure and public safety maintenance, funding for a citywide customer service initiative, resources to research a smart city, economic development initiatives, funds for the Reedy Creek Golf Course, a fleet services funding analysis, water and wastewater services, and funding for the replacement of 2 fire utility trucks, 3 pumpers, and 37 police department vehicles. Annual investments also included funding to repair critical infrastructure and public safety maintenance, resources for the City Council's Sister Cities internal travel program, resources for an online community outreach tool, funding for the police department, and funding for the citywide energy roadmap project. Citywide, 27 new staff positions were approved, 9 part-time positions were upgraded to full-time, and 5 positions were reinstated from cuts in previous budget years. So the proposed fiscal year 26-27 operating budget builds on those initial investments and adds resources from Measure I revenue for 2 high-priority citywide initiatives. The first is year 1 funding for a wildfire mitigation plan, which Deputy Fire Chief Batson will explain in more detail.
Good evening, Council. I'm your Acting Fire Chief, Tyler Batson. This first is year 1 funding for a wildfire mitigation plan, which will begin with the procurement and implementation of a wildfire mitigation software tool. This will use data to model wildfire behavior, support decision makers to pinpoint high-risk zones, prioritize interventions, and record mitigation efforts. This tool will help the city make smarter decisions about where to best focus resources to reduce wildfire risk. Additional resources that include staff positions and equipment will be recommended in the future to further build on the wildfire mitigation plan and create a wildfire urban interface division. This division will reduce wildfire risk to life, property, and critical infrastructure through proactive fuel mitigation, brush clearance, and defensible space enforcement consistent with the City of Escondido's Community Wildfire Protection Plan and other prioritized wildland urban interface mitigation planning tools.
The second citywide initiative is for continued investments in traffic safety. So this slide lists the new resources added to the fiscal year 2027 Measure I budget for the police department, which will also include capital items that you will see in the capital budget workshop next on the agenda. Police Chief Plunkett will be speaking next to share additional information about these investments in traffic safety.
Good evening, Council. Ken Plunkett, Police Chief. As part of the Police Department's effort to address community concerns and support the Council's initiative to increase traffic safety in our city, the Police Department is proposing the following personnel additions and technology upgrades to enhance our capabilities in this area as part of the 2026-2027 budget cycle. The positions we are looking to add this first year under the Traffic Safety Initiative, 3 sworn positions, the first one being a motor officer for our traffic division. Motor officers deliver unmatched mobility and visibility, enabling rapid proactive enforcement in high-risk traffic environments such as congested corridors, school zones, special events, and collision-prone intersections where patrol vehicles are less effective. Their presence directly deters dangerous driving behaviors, including speeding, aggressive driving, red light violations, and impaired driving by emphasizing data-driven preventative enforcement before collisions occur. Currently, we staff 7 motor officers, and we're looking to staff an 8th to give us better coverage and also allow the officers to work in pairs, which increases safety for our motor officers as well. The next 2 sworn positions are listed as traffic officers. Currently, we staff 2 officers that are assigned to our patrol division, so they count as part of our patrol resources and our minimum staffing in patrol. Those traffic cars are assigned to do traffic functions. However, in the case of emergency, if they're needed for non-traffic related issues based on staffing, then they would handle those as well. By adding these 2 traffic officer positions, we can move these traffic resources into the traffic division and under the supervision of our traffic department, allowing them to focus strictly on traffic enforcement and improving in those areas. The staffing behind them will go to patrol and allow patrol to have the staffing that they need for our minimum staffing and to keep patrol responses times down and safe. Additionally, we're requesting to add, a police program coordinator in our traffic division. Currently, we have a part-time employee who does this function for the police department, and that position will be vacant in December. By adding a full-time person as the police program coordinator, remember, as part of our restructuring, we brought in our SRO programs under the traffic umbrella. So this program coordinator will now have the responsibility to coordinate efforts for both of our traffic division and special events, as well as with our schools. So there'll be a lot of work. The police program coordinator will enhance traffic and school safety and service delivery by providing essential administrative and program support for our traffic investigations, parking enforcement, abandoned vehicles, towing coordination, special events, and program coordination, allowing our sworn officers to focus on enforcement and collision investigation and response. Improved coordination and compliance strengthens operations with streamlined case tracking, better interdepartmental and external liaison work, effective special event traffic planning, and oversight of traffic safety grants and school-related grants and programs to maximize funding and ensure regulatory compliance. The position delivers measurable community benefits, including safer streets, smoother traffic flow, daily activities and events, more responsive parking and vehicle services, planning of school-related programs and safety efforts, and efficient use of public resources and improved quality of life for our residents. Additionally, on this slide, we added in the cost of, with adding that motor officer, we're going to have to purchase an additional motor for them to ride. And that police vehicles and equipment includes training and equipment and the vehicles that we give to our police officers. Also included in this slide is the police safety suite upgrade. The police safety suite upgrade, if approved, will allow the department to look at the latest technologies aimed at enhancing the department's abilities to respond to, investigate, and reduce crime in the city in a safe and transparent manner. This upgrade package includes the latest body camera technology, which includes translation services, on-demand policy and procedure resources, and advanced AI capabilities to streamline officers' work, with the idea of enhancing efficiency and getting our officers back in the field after investigations quicker. This package also offers the Drone as a First Responder program, which is designed to reduce response times, increase investigative efficiency, and provide an additional layer of officer safety with intelligence from crime scene prior to arrival. It can be used to assist in such things as issuing fireworks citations in the future. Can also assist other departments with the inspection of protected infrastructure like our dams and our waterways. So there's more than just a police need for these drones, the Drone as a First Responder program. The package will also include new tasers with built-in virtual reality training for more accuracy, safer for our officers and the public. Also included is updated mapping software to increase the situational awareness, creating real-time like crime center feel for the city, call-taking software to assist our dispatching and non-emergency calls for service, as well as the possibility of an updated records management system. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. So continuing with the Measure I funded traffic safety initiatives will be Director of Public Works, Joseph Goulart.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Christina. As recommended on the January 14, 2026 Council meeting regarding the Safe Routes to School, $150,000 has been allocated to the Transportation and Community Safety Commission. Measure I funding has also been allocated for the purchase of 4 digital message boards to display public safety campaigns like Go Slow and ESCO for traffic safety and important public notices citywide. I'll now turn the presentation back over to Christina.
Thank you. So there are additional recommendations for investments from the Measure I Fund for this upcoming year. So Acting Fire Chief Batson will discuss additional resources for the fire department.
Good evening again. I'm Tyler Batson, your Acting Fire Chief. For the fire department, to address the demand for fire prevention services and improve processing times for inspections, 2 deputy fire marshals have been added. This also provides the mid-level supervisor positions for future growth. This is phase 1 of a 2-year fire prevention expansion. Next are funds for a fire station alerting system upgrade. This is for the replacement of alerting equipment that delivers and displays dispatch alerts in the fire stations. The equipment has reached end of life, is no longer supported by the manufacturer, and it has experienced increasing failures with no available replacement parts. This is a 3-year project. Funding of $160,000 is recommended for fiscal year 2027, and an additional $160,000 will be requested annually for the next 2 budget years to complete the project. While city staff pursues grant opportunities, matching funds have been set aside to replace the fire department's current self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBA's, equipment. The current equipment was purchased in 2016 and now 2 national standards behind current NFPA recommendations. Additionally, the equipment is out of warranty and increasingly prone to failures and higher maintenance costs due to aging and discontinued parts. The $200,000 request is the anticipated 10% local match. If the city is not able to secure grant funding, staff will return to City Council to request additional funding later this fall for a full purchase plan. Thank you.
And then next for Measure I investments is the police department, which will be presented by Police Chief Plunkett.
Good evening, Council. Again, in an effort to increase overall operational efficiency and enhance our abilities to meet our mission of protecting the community through exceptional police services, we are proposing the following additions to the police department personnel for this upcoming 2026-2027 budget cycle. The first position we're looking to add is a Police Criminal Intelligence Analyst 2. The position will provide detail analysis, intelligence briefings, in coordination with patrol, investigations, and regional partners to support strategic deployments and focused interventions, maximizing the impact of police resources. Evidence-based policing guided by analysis leads to targeted response that reduce crime, enhance neighborhood safety, and ensure enforcement strategies remain responsive to the needs of the community. Coupled with the formation of our community enhancement team and our sector area policing model, the addition of this resource will enhance the department's ability to use crime data to develop strategies to target crime problems most effectively throughout the city. The second position is a sworn position. It's a police officer position, and it's actually to fill a detective position for the Internet Crimes Against Children detective spot. The ICAC investigations, or the Internet Crimes Against Children, are uniquely complex and urgent, involving highly vulnerable child victims, ongoing risk of harm, intensive digital forensic work, trauma-informed practices, and extensive coordination with prosecutors and partner agencies, all requiring specialized training and sustained focus. Current staffing is insufficient to meet the investigative demand, resulting in excessive caseloads that increase the risks of victimization and offender recidivism and leave children unprotected while cases wait for attention. Adding an ICAC detective significantly strengthens community safety, enabling faster and more thorough investigations, earlier identification and rescue of victims, greater offender accountability, reduce investigator burnout, and a clear commitment to protecting children and public trust. The third position we're requesting to add would be a police program coordinator for our sex registrant position. Currently, this responsibility is being handled by a part-time employee, and we're looking to make this a full-time assignment. A dedicated police program coordinator will strengthen public safety and compliance by ensuring accurate, timely management of sex registrant program in accordance with California law, reducing risk associated with the errors or delayed registrations. Full-time oversight improves accountability and coordination, enhancing monitoring, follow-up, and information sharing with investigators and partner agencies while allowing sworn officers to remain focused on emergency response and crime prevention. This position will also coordinate forensics exam billing, which is also being handled by a part-time employee who is looking to retire soon. The position delivers clear community values, supporting victim safety, proactive risk management, legal transparency, and reinforcing public trust through consistent professional program administration. And the final position we're looking to add through this budget cycle will be another police program coordinator assigned to our Community Enhancement Division. With our reorganization, we brought the Community Enhancement Bureau together with traffic, our gangs and narcotics unit, and our cops team. Currently, we have a part-time person that helps our gang and narcotics team maintain their files. And we're looking to add the cops division to that responsibility. That's why we want to bring it on full-time. The cops team coordinating trespass letters with businesses and all the cops projects coordinating with businesses. There's a lot of work to be done there while also maintaining that responsibility with our gang enhancement unit. So this will free up our detective and our officers' time to be out in the field being proactive, and this position will handle the administrative work for those units, which is definitely a necessary need for our police department. And with that, I thank you again for your time.
Continuing with the new Measure I investments, this next item will be presented by Development Services Director Kevin Snyder.
Good evening, Council. I'm excited to talk to you about this significant policy update project. We have put together an admittedly aggressive, but we believe equally doable set of policy initiatives that we would like to work on over the next 2 years with Council support. We are looking to do a comprehensive update to the land use element of our general plan and also the mobility element of our general plan. And these are key because these are the areas that we need the most modernization of codes in. We are also looking to do policy efforts in the areas of updating either outdated or perhaps in some instances non-existent master plans. Those include the areas of utilities, stormwater, transportation, and parks and open space. We also are looking to do a land use and market study. This will help us identify our place in the current market as it relates to housing. It will support the future update effort for our housing element, and it will also support the wildfire safety efforts that the city is embarking on. We also will be doing a significant amount of community outreach. We will rely upon both traditional and creative outreach efforts to ensure the highest participation from our community throughout the process. We'll be doing environmental review efforts as appropriate. We are also going to be embarking on a significant update to our zoning regulations. We would like to produce what's called a unified development code and basically create a one-stop shopping opportunity for our users of our zoning regulations where they can find all the information in one place and don't have to spend significant time looking around our municipal code. Finally, we will be also looking to do strategic updates to certain specific plans, downtown specific plan, South Center City specific plan, and the East Valley specific plan, and others as we identify as we go throughout the process. So we're very excited. We think this will help move the city both to a current state and help the city move forward. Thank you.
And then lastly, for new Measure I investments is the reinstatement of a finance manager position that was eliminated in the fiscal year 2025 operating budget to address the general fund budget deficit. So with the approval of the Measure I local district tax, the number of projects and financial reporting requirements has increased, and finance is not currently able to meet the minimum finance and reporting deadlines and keep up with other critical projects. So the position will oversee the daily accounting functions of the department, prepare timely financial reports, oversee the annual citywide and Measure I audits. And as a result of the new position, minimum reporting deadlines will be met, and there will be improvements in the number and timeliness of public-facing financial reports. The next set of slides will show the existing Measure I funded operating investments that will continue in the fiscal year 2027 operating budget. As I noted earlier, in the fiscal year 2026 operating budget, several new positions were added and funded by Measure I. Existing operating costs were also moved to the Measure I fund to address the general fund structural budget deficit. This included funding the staff at Fire Station Number 1. There are now 82 staff positions shown here by department that will continue to be funded by Measure I in the upcoming budget. For the police department, the Animal Control Services contract that was extended through December 2026 will continue to be funded by Measure I, as well as the increase to the department's maintenance and operations budget. This was approved last fiscal year to better account for the actual operating expense needs of the department that had historically been funded by savings in personnel costs due to high vacancy rates. For the fire department, these 3 contracts will continue to be funded by Measure I: the Ready Rebound First Responder Navigation Service contract, flexible operational policy services, and the membership fee with the North County Dispatch Joint Powers Authority for fire and medical emergency dispatch services. The next item, in August 2025, the City Council approved the implementation and financing of the Citywide Energy Roadmap project. $45 million was financed through a lease purchase agreement and annual debt service payments of $3,405,658. As a result of the project improvements, the city will realize savings in energy costs once the project is complete. This is confirmed by a monitoring and verification process performed by Climatech each year. The annual debt service payments are currently being funded by Measure I. This is in the initial years of the project until the energy expense savings offset the costs of the annual debt service payment. At that time, then, the general fund, water fund, and wastewater fund will assume their share of the liability payments, and this will no longer be funded by Measure I. Savings will begin to be realized as projects are completed and then fully by fiscal year 2036. This next slide highlights a couple of the improvements that are occurring throughout the city. Library solar install has started, about 50% complete, with scheduled completion by June 30th. Remaining solar projects are in the design phase. Lighting installation has been 100% completed at the East Valley Community Center and fire stations 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Police and Fire Headquarters is currently in progress with an expected completion date of May 21st, and City Hall is scheduled for the end of May. And then water and wastewater treatment plant improvements are in the design phase of the project. The contract for the online community outreach tool that was implemented this year will continue to be funded by Measure I, and the city's portion of water and wastewater services will also continue to be funded by Measure I. So I'm going to pause here. So far in the presentation, I've discussed both new Measure I investments for this upcoming budget and the ongoing operating expenses that will continue to be funded by Measure I. I'm now going to move over to the general fund preliminary operating budget in this next section of the presentation. At the beginning of the presentation, I showed the general fund structural budget deficit and the steps that the city has taken over the years to address that structural deficit. In the most recent fiscal year 2026, utilizing the new revenue stream from Measure I, the city preserved current services by moving over $7.9 million in existing general fund operating expenses to the Measure I local district tax fund, and still used $3.1 million from available resources in the workers' compensation fund to close the general fund structural budget deficit. So this slide shows the fiscal year 2026 current fiscal year operating budget in that first column compared to the preliminary fiscal year 2027 budget. At the beginning of the budget season, once all departments had submitted their budgets, the general fund operating deficit was $6,875,710. General fund operating revenues are projected to increase by 4.7%, and general fund operating expenses are projected to increase by 7.2% from the prior fiscal year. So I'm going to go through the primary reasons for those increases and decreases in operating revenues and expenses in the next several slides and present the recommendations to close the general fund budget deficit this fiscal year. Beginning with expenses, there are several primary cost drivers in the fiscal year 2027 preliminary general fund operating budget that are contributing to the increase in expenses. So in fiscal year 23, the city joined the Public Provider Ground Emergency Transportation Intergovernmental Transfer Program. The program provides an add-on payment to ambulance transportation reimbursements for those patients covered by Medi-Cal. The program has generated additional revenue of about $4.8 million annually since implemented. But to participate in the program, agencies must contribute an administrative fee. So the fee is adjusted annually to reflect changes in program dynamics, and that fee is projected to increase by $1,029,400 this upcoming fiscal year. The next significant increase in general fund operating expenses is due to the premium payments for citywide insurance funds. So this is a list of the general liability and property insurance policies held by the city and the projected fiscal year 2027 premiums. So there was a significant increase in the general liability premium insurance. This slide shows the previous 5 fiscal years, noting that premiums have increased by about 130% since 2022. For fiscal year 27, that's a little over $926,410 for the general fund. This is due to an increase in the number and size of extremely large losses over the last several years in the pool, resulting in a deterioration of pooled funds to cover those claims. Next is the library. Currently, the library is operated under a management agreement with LS&S. In 2024, the City Council approved the use of American Rescue Plan Act resources to fund the library for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. That funding expires this fiscal year, so the upcoming management fee of $3,216,933 has been added back to the general fund. On December 17th, 2025, the City Council approved an amendment to the agreement with LS&S, extending the contract for 2 years to allow for the continued operation of library services through June 30th of 2028. Funds of $50,000 have also been added to the city manager's department budget in this upcoming year so that the city can work with a consultant to identify options and long-term funding sources to continue library operations and services. Next is for employee services. There are over 630 full-time positions in the general fund, which make up about 84% of the general fund operating budget. At the pension obligation workshop held at the May 6th City Council meeting, we presented this slide noting the CalPERS unfunded liability payment in fiscal year 27 is 19% of the total operating budget. The unfunded accrued liability payment has increased $2,800,770 from the fiscal year, and PERS is projecting that the city is reaching the peak in payment amounts for the next several years through fiscal year 2031. With this amount projected to increase for the next several years, this obligation makes up a substantial portion of the general fund budget. The staff recommendation for the fiscal year 27 operating budget is to utilize that Section 115 pension trust fund for the increase in the unfunded accrued liability payment of that $2.8 million. The trust fund was established for this purpose, to provide some budgetary relief to meet those pension liability obligations. So the current cash balance as of April 30th, 2026 is a little over $40 million. This slide again shows the starting general fund budget deficit in fiscal year 2027 that we are working to close. That's the $6,875,710. By utilizing the Section 115 Pension Trust Fund, the general fund budget deficit is then reduced to $4,074,940. To maintain current city services, there are existing expenses that we are recommending to fund with Measure I in order to close that remaining structural budget deficit this fiscal year. To support the citywide traffic safety initiative, the first recommendation is to fund 3 existing traffic safety positions, that is 2 associate engineers and the city traffic engineer. By funding those positions with Measure I, the general fund budget deficit is now reduced to $3,618,620. Fire Station Number 1 staff is being funded by Measure I due to its role as the city's primary and most staffed fire station, supporting critical operational and administrative functions. The recommendation is to fund the staff at a second existing fire station, Station Number 7, which currently responds to the highest number of emergency incidents in the city. Using the available funds from the Section 115 Pension Trust Fund and funding the traffic engineering staff and Fire Station Number 7 staff, the general fund budget maintains current city services and is balanced for fiscal year 2027. Now, continuing with the fiscal year 2027 general fund operating budget, next I'm going to review major budget impacts within individual department budgets. As I mentioned, funding of $50,000 has been added to the city manager's office budget so that the city can work with a consultant to identify options and long-term funding sources for library services. Funding for the November 2026 election is added to this year's operating budget. For the communications department, budget for the public channel programming and the ongoing accessibility upgrades to the city's website are funded using restricted revenue from the public education and governmental fees, known as PEG fees. The Assistant Director of Communications is being reclassified to establish a Director of Communications classification. The Director of Communications position will have an annual salary range of $171,860 to $255,780, consistent with other director-level positions in the city. The position will also be eligible for benefits that have been approved by the City Council in the Management and Unclassified Salary and Benefits Plan, which is publicly available on the city's website. Development Services has created a new division within their portfolio, Development Services Administration, to account for the administrative support provided to the entire Development Services group. In addition, traffic engineering now reports under Public Works. Lastly, new budget was allocated to the portfolio for additional staff training and software. The Community Relations budget was established to provide funding for community events and account for the staff time. Budgeted special events include the community fireworks, Cruise and Grand, the Christmas Parade, Veterans Day, and the Grape Day Festival. This year, additional funding was added for the 4th of July fireworks as America celebrates its 250th birthday. And then city staff time and fees waived are also included for the Grape Day Festival. So there are additional staff positions that have been added to other funds in the preliminary operating budget. So Deputy City Manager Joanna Axelrod will discuss the next budget recommendations.
Thank you, Christina. Good evening, Council. So good to see you. I'm standing in tonight for our Chief Information Officer, Rob Vandehei, who couldn't be here with us. What you're going to see over the next 2 slides is a recommendation that will support the city's efforts to modernize technology, reduce our risk, and improve service delivery. These additions focus on reducing the technology debt of our aging systems, addressing the increased cybersecurity risk we face, and responding to the growing demand for digital services. This plan is about ensuring our systems are reliable, secure, and able to support city operations and position us to move from maintaining outdated systems to delivering modern services. First, we're recommending to add 2 network system engineers and 1 network systems technician to the Information Systems Department. To address the worldwide increase in cybersecurity attacks, these positions will support regular cybersecurity audits and perform upgrades to our access switches. These positions will also proactively manage our infrastructure, provide staff training, and help employees across the city fully leverage and adopt existing technology to improve efficiency, customer service, and modernize our workplace. As a result of these positions, response times for technology support requests will improve. We can accelerate the replacement of aging systems. There will be a reduction in cybersecurity risks and technology debt, and the department will be equipped to support the modernization of our infrastructure and traffic safety technologies. Working in partnership with Utilities Director Daniel Peterson, we identified a need for a dedicated technology team for utilities. This would be paid for out of the water and wastewater funds. Technology is now essential infrastructure for water and wastewater, just as pipelines and treatment facilities always have been. The addition of 1 business analyst and 1 systems analyst with expertise in enterprise systems is recommended to modernize the utility systems, including the replacement of our utility billing enterprise system and deployment of advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, to improve data accuracy, efficiency, and customer visibility, with the dedicated support and strong cybersecurity oversight that's required to ensure that those systems are secure, reliable, and sustainable. Working together with the network systems staff, this is a 2-part staffing strategy to modernize utility systems and support smart city technologies. This investment reduces risk today while building the modern infrastructure needed to deliver and serve our community into the future. Thank you.
That concludes the update on the fiscal year 2027 preliminary operating expense budget. Before I move to the next section and review the projected operating revenue, I'll summarize the new items recommended in the operating budget. So the preliminary budget document includes 15 new and 1 reinstated staff positions to support the high-priority citywide initiative for traffic safety, public safety, and to restore organizational capacity. This next slide lists the new annual and one-time investments included in the fiscal year 2027 preliminary operating budget document. So that concludes the proposed preliminary operating expense budget for fiscal year 2027. Next, I will review the general fund and Measure I revenue projections for the upcoming year. This table shows the current fiscal year 2026 budgeted operating revenue, followed by the fiscal year 2027 amounts projected this upcoming fiscal year. Overall revenue is projected to increase by about 4.7%, or almost $6.4 million. And the next slides, I'll discuss each category of revenue. For each category of revenue, the chart will show 5 fiscal years of data. Starting from the left of the chart, the first 3 light blue columns present the actual revenue received for that fiscal year. The 2 dark blue columns then on the right show the budget amounts for fiscal year 2026, which we're currently in, and then the far right column displays the amount that is projected for the upcoming fiscal year 2027. Starting with sales tax. The slide is for the base sales tax revenue that does not include Measure I revenue, which I will discuss later in the presentation. The city's base sales tax revenue is the largest source of revenue for the general fund at 33% of the total. The city works closely with its sales tax consultant, HDL Companies, in projecting this revenue. Based on their analysis of the trends and an examination of the local economy, the city's sales tax revenue is anticipated to stay fairly flat with a slight decrease compared to the fiscal year 2026 budget amount to reach $46.6 million. This is due to ongoing global events and consumer uncertainty surrounding the economy. The declines that are projected in general retail and consumer spending will be offset slightly by the higher gas prices and an increase in fuel costs. Property tax revenues also represent a major funding source for the city at 29% of the general fund. Property tax revenue is impacted by an annual inflation adjustment under Proposition 13, which is capped at 2%, as well as the number of home sales and increased median home prices. So this revenue is expected to increase about 6.6% to reach $41.3 million in fiscal year 2027. Other taxes include franchise fees, transient occupancy tax, business license fees, and the Redevelopment Property Tax Trust Fund account for 15% of total general fund revenue. These other taxes are projected to decrease slightly to reach projected revenue of $19.4 million. The city collects franchise fee revenues from San Diego Gas and Electric, cable companies conducting business within city limits, and Escondido Disposal Incorporated for trash collection services. So overall franchise fee revenues are projected to decline slightly. It's primarily based on expected electric activity at the Palomar Energy Plant. Charges for services include paramedic fees, community services fees for recreational and community activities, and charges for development-related services, which include engineering and planning fees. This category of revenue is projected to increase compared to the prior fiscal year, with estimated revenue of $19.9 million. The largest source of revenue within this category is for the emergency medical service fees. So for the emergency medical service fees, in 2023, the fire department engaged with a consultant to conduct a standards of cover and ambulance transportation fee study. Based on the findings from this study, in October of 2024, City Council adopted a resolution which approved the current emergency medical services fee schedule. This fee schedule set the emergency medical services fees at 100% cost recovery and was implemented in January of 2025. This slide shows the annual paramedic fees in blue, and then earlier in the presentation, I noted the new revenue from the ground emergency transportation revenue that the city began receiving in fiscal year 2023, which is shown in red. The number of EMS accounts are also shown each fiscal year in the green trend line. So the updated fee schedule was effective as of January 2025, about 6 months out of fiscal year 2025, which is shown on the far right. As part of the adoption of the fee schedule in October of 2024, the resolution authorized an annual fee adjustment based on a consumer price index, or CPI adjustment, specifically the United States Healthcare Inflation Rate Index. For calendar year 2025, that index adjustment is 3.1%. In order to keep pace with increasing expenses and the full cost recovery model, staff recommend adjusting the emergency medical services fees by the 3.1%, effective with the new fiscal year, July 1st, 2026. The adjusted fee schedule is shown on the far right table compared to the current fee schedule in the middle column. The next category of revenue is intergovernmental revenue. This includes the Rincon Fire Services Agreement, state-mandated cost claims, and various grants, and is projected to increase overall by approximately $606,260. Rental income includes income from city-owned properties, including the North County Mall, shared revenue with the City of San Diego for activity generated at the Vineyard Golf Course, and small cell tower lease revenue. This revenue is projected to increase by 4.9% to reach $4.3 million. Permits and licenses are collected for building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire code, and mobile home permits and are projected to increase by about $765,000. This is primarily due to the adjusted full cost recovery fee schedule that was adopted in September 2024. Fines and forfeitures are projected to decrease slightly from the prior fiscal year to reach $798,000. Fines and forfeitures are collected by the city for vehicle code fines, parking ticket fines, other court fines, code enforcement citations, and inbound fees. Investment and other revenue or miscellaneous receipt projections have been increased by approximately $280,000. To note, as of March 2026, the city treasurer reported a return on investments of 3.542%. So that concludes the general fund projected revenue. Next is the tax revenue projections for Measure I. Because this is the first year of the implementation for the district tax, there is some uncertainty as to the actual revenue that will be generated this fiscal year. So for this first forecast, the city used 2 different sales tax consultants to prepare a preliminary forecast for the Measure I funds. The staff recommendation was to budget for revenue of $38,484,150, which was the average between those 2 models. Since the fiscal year 2026 budget was adopted, the city sales tax consultants have amended their projections to $36,055,880 generated from Measure I. We still have not yet completed a full fiscal year for collecting the Measure I tax revenue. The final payments for fiscal year 2026 will be received by the city in August of 2026. However, based on data collected so far, the consultants are projecting an increase in revenue for Measure I of $532,120. As I conclude this presentation, I'll end by reviewing the upcoming City Council budget meeting dates. Today's workshop is for the fiscal year 2027 preliminary operating budget. The next workshop on tonight's agenda is for the capital improvement program and budget, and then both budgets are scheduled to be adopted by the City Council on June 17th.
Do we have any public comments?
None.
Okay. Questions, comments from the council?
Thank you for the presentation. Just a couple questions on traffic safety. Is Joe? Yeah, Joe. All right, thank you. If we can just go to, I'll kind of remember the slide. I know it's a lot of slides. So there's 150,000 increase, total for the Traffic Safety Commission, which I totally support. And then there was another, I think, 100,000. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's to purchase digital message boards.
Okay, got it. For the
sign
Ford
trailers.
digital. Okay.
And that will come up with a traffic safety campaign.
We're going to look to do specifically placements in strategic locations around the city where we're having those issues,
Like
and
the
rotate
hotspots.
them, hotspots, come up with pithy sayings. We might actually get council involved in helping us do some of that down the line.
Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez, Public Works will not pick the slogans that go on these signs.
Fair. So my one question was, there was a request for a feasibility study on Citricado and Valley Parkway. That's part of the, I think, it was part of a work plan, I think, that your department had. Is that part of this, or is that in a different bucket?
That would be part of the capital improvement.
Okay, so the next conversation?
That would be the next
Thank you.
conversation.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. I will ask about that the next one. Thank you. And just for Chief Plunkett, there you are. Hi, Chief Plunkett. Quick question. You mentioned the police safety suite upgrade, which includes the drone or drones for the firework, right?
Yes, ma'am. Could be used for that.
Enforcement. What is there? Is it like a one company that handles all these things? And do you have an idea of a company that you're trying to utilize for this, or does it go to bid? I just wanted to get more detail about the suite.
Yeah, we're looking
services.
at one company that offers a complete package.
Okay, of all those things?
Of all those things combined together.
Okay. What's the company's name?
Axon is the company.
Axon. Okay, that's what the cameras are.
Yes.
That's what you use for body cams, right?
That's what we use for body cams and some of
Okay.
our software already. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, good. Thanks for answering that question. And then just on the library, so I'm done with public safety. Thank you so much. And then for the library, I know we extended it 2 years. I would like to just lift up that in the exploring what the future looks like for the library. I would like to explore, I don't know if it's budgeted in that specific amount, looking into a library district. Formation of a possible library district for future funding of that. So I wanted to put that on the radar for my colleagues too.
So yes, that is actually the item that is that Christina identified as the $50,000 to bring on some assistance to look at options of long-term sustainability around the library.
Thank you. And one of those ideas is library districts. So
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I voiced that. And then lastly, there was another thing. Reedy Creek, I saw Reedy Creek is in there, for a cost. I don't know if we have a similar kind of thing to the library of looking at the future of Reedy Creek. But I know that is a significant annual cost to our city, and that contract's coming up, I think, in 2030 is when our bond gets paid off for that public golf course. So I don't know if we're already looking at, I wanted to also voice that we need to also look at the future of Reedy Creek, and maybe because that's a little bit further out from in 2030, that might be a discussion for the future. But again, I want to mention it so for the public and my colleagues to kind of also have that on the radar of things that we should invest in looking to and be proactive before those contracts come up and we're not having to extend, right, to look at those. Do you have any comment on that? Okay.
No, it's just, it is, right now we're prioritizing the library sustainability question in the budget.
Yes, that's in 2030, so just flagging it for the future, put it on the list. Thank you for the presentation.
It was a considerably longer presentation than our briefing, but very thorough, and appreciate that. As I have stated over the years, and I'm glad that we're seeing this continue to come to fruition on the reserves, because this is not just about spending, but making sure that we are healthy, because we do have many years of a structural deficit. So thank you for that. I believe this is a public safety heavy budget, and it certainly seems like there are that was what the community was speaking to as they entrusted us with some additional funds. So thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation, its thoroughness, and the ability for the community to be able to hear this, because this needs to be very transparent. So thank you.
I was just thinking, as we were going over everything, what an exciting time to be able to have this conversation, because we are able to create positions and, you know, get the latest of technology to be able to serve. And yes, fire safety, I like the fire mitigation, police safety, all very important. But I was also very excited about development services, as far as being able to change the general plan zoning code, you know, working on the general plan and the zone updates, and just the great need of modernizing those codes, you know, for where we are now and where we see ourselves in the future. So it's a good time to be in Escondido and be a part of this. Thank you for your presentation, everybody.
All right, thank you. I'll keep my comments brief once again and just say I think you've done a fantastic job organizing the priorities that we set forth. And I think that the priorities that the community expects from Measure I. So thank you. And I assume you're next too? Oh, just kidding.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. I'm Vinny Bernabeo with the City Manager's Office, and tonight I'll be presenting a preliminary working draft of the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2026 and 27 through 2030 and 31. The purpose of this presentation is to confirm alignment with council priorities and what we heard from the community before we return with final recommendations for adoption on June 17th. The Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP, is a working 5-year plan that's shaped by council priorities, community input, and funding eligibility. And it's refined further based on your feedback. The CIP is not just a static list of projects, but rather a working portfolio that balances needs, available funding, and deliverability over time. At its core, the CIP exists to protect and reinvest in the critical infrastructure assets that keep our community functioning and our city thriving. I'd like to clarify the two different types of capital improvements that you'll see throughout the CIP: programs and projects. Programs are ongoing citywide investments. They don't focus on a single location. Instead, they address recurring needs over time. Things like maintenance on pavements, signal coordination, or our street tree maintenance program. Programs are typically funded year after year, and they allow the city to respond flexibly to condition, safety, and maintenance needs as they arise. Projects, on the other hand, are one-time, location-specific improvements. They have a defined scope, a beginning and an end, such as a new splash pad or a playground replacement. Projects are planned, designed, and constructed over a finite timeline. Before we get into the specific investment areas, I want to take a moment to walk through how we got here and how community input has shaped this process and the way that we think about capital improvements. This slide shows the roadmap for the CIP, the process and progression, how input was gathered over time and translated into this preliminary draft that you're seeing here tonight. Over the winter, Council hosted the first round of Building Escondido Together, CIP meetings. These were intentionally district-specific conversations, with the mayor hosting one citywide. These meetings focused on unpacking the basics of capital planning, as well as hearing what residents were experiencing on the ground and what they saw as priorities for capital investment. Across those meetings, one theme was especially consistent: traffic and pedestrian safety. That feedback then carried directly into the Council's Vision Workshop on March 23rd, where Council refined its priorities and formally identified traffic safety as a high-impact, high-urgency issue. We also heard something else that was important. Community members wanted engagement that was more interactive and more topic-specific, not just broad discussions about capital projects. In response, we designed the Parks Amenities Visioning Workshops that we held in spring in order to go deeper on parks, open spaces, and amenities in a more hands-on way. In April, we came back to Council with a status briefing on the current fiscal year CIP, what's underway and what's been delivered. That was the accountability checkpoint. So, in total, we held 10 community meetings, numerous city council meetings and status, progress updates, as well as ongoing online engagement through yourescondido.com and our social media channels, so that residents could stay informed and involved even if they couldn't attend meetings in person. As you can see, we've intentionally built this preliminary draft to reflect a combination of community engagement and council direction. Tonight is the forward-looking step. We're asking for your input on this preliminary 5-year plan and the capital improvements that are under active consideration. Then, we'll take that input and return on June 17th with a final capital improvement plan for adoption. These are the criteria used to prioritize projects and programs for the 5-year plan. This framework brings together council direction, community input, adopted plans, and safety needs, along with practical considerations like staff capacity and funding constraints. The goal is to ensure that the improvements that you're seeing aren't just responsive to community priorities, but also realistic, deliverable, and aligned with available funding. On the right, you can see how those criteria align with the city's broader strategic priorities as outlined in the council work plan. This is the filter that applies across everything you'll see in the preliminary CIP. So now with that context, I'll start by walking through how traffic safety shows up in the preliminary draft of the capital improvement plan, from planning and strategy down to deliverables. Before we walk through the details, I just want to briefly orient you on how to read these tables, since you'll see this format throughout the presentation. Each row represents an investment or initiative, and each column shows how that work is phased over time across fiscal years. The highlighted column fiscal year 2026-27, is what's in front of you for consideration as part of this recommendation. The years beyond that are shown for context only. They reflect projected timing and estimates and will continue to evolve as projects and programs move through design, funding, and delivery. Planning, prioritization, and project identification acts as the first layer of our traffic safety strategy. This is how traffic safety needs are identified and translated into capital improvements. At this stage, we're relying on adopted, data-driven tools like the Traffic Signal Priority List, or TSPL, and the Local Roadway Safety Plan, or LRSP, to understand where the highest risks and needs exist across the system. These tools have been critical in helping us focus on high-impact locations, particularly intersections with higher collision history, and they continue to guide where we prioritize our improvements today. At the same time, it's important to note that these data sets were last updated in 2019 and 2022, respectively. So while they still provide a strong foundation, part of this investment is about keeping that information current so that we can continue to target our resources as effectively and efficiently as possible. The goal at this stage is to establish a clear, data-informed basis for where we focus, while also continuing to improve the underlying information that drives those decisions. From there, we move on to implementation through ongoing programs that take those priorities and turn them into real, on-the-ground improvements. This next layer represents the ongoing programs that deliver traffic safety improvements across the city year over year. These include core infrastructure programs like pavement, storm drain, and street tree maintenance that affect day-to-day safety and reliability. You'll also see two programmatic drivers here: the Comprehensive Active Transportation Strategy, or CATS, which functions as a multi-year implementation program that both identifies and delivers pedestrian, bicycle, and safety improvements across Escondido's transportation network, and also encompasses our Safe Routes to School initiative. There's also the Transportation and Safety Commission and Community Safety Commission, which provides an annual funding mechanism to select and deliver targeted traffic safety and calming projects citywide. This is where our priorities turn into continuous, on-the-ground improvements across the city's transportation system. And as we're talking about programs, I'd like to take a moment to show what programmatic capital delivery looks like in practice. You may recall this slide from Interim City Engineer Jason Chrisman's status update in April. This is an example from the current fiscal year, the 2025-26 Pavement Maintenance Program, which is about 95% complete and was supplemented with $2 million in Measure I investment. The focus here was improving a connected residential grid in the Central North, or CN zone, combining pavement work with targeted sidewalk and pedestrian improvements. I'm showing this briefly because it illustrates that continuity between what Council approves and what staff delivers. This map shows the planned resurfacing work for fiscal year 26 and 27, which will take place in the Central South, or CS zone. This is just south of the Central North CN zone that we just saw. So our pavement maintenance program strategically and comprehensively moves throughout the city, ensuring that all sections of city-owned roadways are resurfaced. The upcoming work in the CS zone focuses on improving the street conditions on 9th, 15th and Idaho, Center City Parkway, Tulip, and Juniper and Chestnut. This program resurfaces our roads, conditions them for weather events, smooths them out for safer driving, and maintains one of the city's most used assets, its streets. Another component of the traffic safety strategy is targeted capital projects, focused investments with clearly defined scopes and outcomes. Over the next couple of slides, I'll go into greater detail on these specific projects. We're building upon our award-winning Grand Avenue Vision project as we continue phased improvements downtown, advancing safer, more walkable, and shoppable conditions through a long-term, corridor-based investment. Phase 3 focuses on the segment between Escondido Boulevard and Maple Street. It includes construction of the Maple Street traffic circle, along with corridor and streetscape improvements to enhance pedestrian safety, accessibility, and overall circulation. Phase 4 extends those improvements east of Juniper Street to Valley Boulevard, continuing the build-out of the vision plan across additional segments of Grand Avenue. In fiscal year 2026-27, construction of Phase 3 and design of Phase 4 are moving forward concurrently, and they're being carefully coordinated to minimize disruption to the downtown, particularly during key community events like the holiday shopping season and next year's Cruise and Grand. Together, these phases build out the vision plan block by block, delivering safer crossings, calmer traffic, and a more walkable, connected downtown. Our traffic safety digital message boards will act as a flexible and visible tool to reinforce safety messaging and respond to emerging concerns. We'll be able to deploy these strategically in different areas, changing and updating messaging as part of our Go Slow and ESCO campaign. Traffic signal system investments modernize how signals operate and how the city can manage safety at scale. You'll see communications and technology investments through the Traffic Signal Communications Master Plan, wireless radios, and the annual Traffic Signal FY27 Transnet allocation. The key point is that these are not isolated fixes. They're system-level investments that allow signals to be monitored, coordinated, and improved more consistently across the city. The city's modernizing our traffic signal network as a system, not just upgrading individual intersections. These investments work together, each one building on the last. The overarching work is part of the Traffic Signal Communications Master Plan. The implementation of this plan replaces outdated controllers, essentially the brains or computers of traffic signals, as well as end-of-life phone-based connections, and it installs modern controllers and high-speed communications for the city's 178 signals. This allows the signals to be monitored and managed centrally, rather than staff having to treat each intersection on a standalone basis. So far, with Council's previous approvals of funding and the resulting Caltrans construction project, we're on track to have these upgraded traffic light controllers at all intersections, together with an interconnected, faster and more reliable network of 70 cellular modems, bringing our traffic lights into a highly functional system. This additional fiscal year 2026-27 funding allows a continuation of improvements as identified in the Traffic Signal Communications Master Plan. Furthermore, these improvements position the city to take advantage of the upcoming Smart City Fiber Network as it comes online. Ultimately, the master plan implementation builds out the foundations for a future high-tech traffic management safety center with state-of-the-art monitors, near instantaneous remote control of lights and timing, and the ability to troubleshoot signal issues as they arise. An integral part of this ongoing traffic signal communications master plan and modernization efforts is traffic signal corridor synchronization. This is where the technology turns into everyday results. Synchronization coordinates signal timing along entire corridors, and the second phase of the overall master plan would specifically improve the timing and traffic flow along Bear Valley Parkway, Center City Parkway, El Norte Parkway, Citricado Parkway, and the East and West Valley Parkway corridors. The traffic signal wireless radios support the transition towards a safer and smarter signal system that provide immediate connectivity where fiber is not yet available and long-term redundancy once it is. This improves reliability, response times, and day-to-day operations while protecting the city's investments in these upgraded controllers. You may recall Engineering Project Manager Craig Williams' presentation in January, where mid-year funding was approved to help us achieve the goal of modernizing and drastically improving our overall traffic signal system to advance the city into the next phase. And I just wanted to demonstrate that this is not a new direction, but rather the outcome layer. The city's already invested in the infrastructure that makes these long-term benefits possible, and this step uses that infrastructure to reduce delay, improve traffic flow, and deliver measurable corridor-level safety and mobility benefits to eventually connect the system upgrades citywide. The last item on this list is similarly tied to the broader signal system improvements as well as our overarching traffic safety strategy. And it's guided by the traffic studies that I referenced earlier. Traffic Signal FY27 is a $750,000 annual Transnet allocation, and it's intentionally not tied to a single specific project. Instead, it feeds into a dedicated funding pool that we draw from as projects become ready. Traffic signal improvements typically require phased delivery, starting with feasibility, then design, and eventually construction. So having a consistent funding source allows us to strategically move priority projects forward as they reach each stage. This creates a pipeline. Priorities are identified through our planning efforts, then we strategically allocate funding based on readiness. The next slide shows how that funding strategy translates into actual signal projects on the ground. And again, they're based on the highest priority intersections as identified in our TSPL and LRSP studies. These are the projects that are currently moving through that funding pipeline. Using our pool of annual Transnet allocations, we advance high priority intersections as identified through the traffic signal priority list and the local roadway safety plan. You might recall at the top of the traffic safety strategy, the TSPL and the LRSP are in need of updates. But we're not just waiting around for the data. We're continuing to act on the highest impact locations that have already been identified. Each row here represents a specific intersection, and what you're seeing across the chart is how those projects are phased over time. From initial feasibility studies that help us determine the scope and scale of a project into design and construction. Rather than delivering projects one at a time, this approach allows us to work on multiple intersections concurrently with projects at different stages based on readiness, timing, and complexity. You can see the progress we've made with completed projects like Washington and Rose and others actively moving into construction in this fiscal year. We're currently advancing work on the top priority intersections as identified by the TSPL while continuing to move projects already underway through the pipeline. This is a direct example of how we're prioritizing public safety through the traffic safety strategy by focusing resources where they'll have the greatest impact. This section reflects one of the city's top priorities, public safety, and that shows up consistently across both the operating and capital sides of the budget. As you heard from Finance Director Christina Holmes' operating budget presentation, the city continues to invest in personnel, equipment, and day-to-day service delivery. What you're seeing here is the capital counterpart to that very same priority. Investments that support officer safety, emergency response, and the infrastructure that protects the public citywide. The Axon Officer Safety Suite supports officer operations and accountability. The Fire Station Alerting System upgrade replaces the equipment that delivers and displays dispatch alerts in fire stations. This equipment's reached end of life. It's no longer supported by the manufacturer, and it's experienced increasing failures with no available replacement parts. So this is a 3-year project, and funding of $160,000 is recommended for this fiscal year, and an additional $160,000 will be requested annually for the next 2 budget years. While city staff pursue grant opportunities, matching funds have been set aside to replace the fire department's current self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBA equipment. The current equipment was purchased in 2016, is now 2 national standards behind, out of warranty, and increasingly prone to failure and high maintenance costs due to the aging and discontinued parts. The $200,000 request is the anticipated 10% local match. If the city is not able to secure grant funding, staff will return to City Council to request additional funding later. Here you'll also see that public safety extends beyond traditional departments like police and fire. Investments like storm drain and channel maintenance reduce flood risk, protect our infrastructure, and help keep residents safe during storm events. And as you saw earlier, there's a clear intersection with our traffic safety strategy. Whether it's safer corridors or improved equipment for our first responders, these investments are about protecting our community. Public safety is not siloed, it's a citywide priority, and these investments reflect that across the entirety of the capital improvement plan. As I mentioned earlier, part of what we learned from our district-specific Building Escondido Together CIP meetings was that our community wanted to be engaged in a more open, interactive setting, and they wanted to focus on a specific topic rather than the overall capital planning process. Staff directly acted on this feedback and developed the Parks Visioning workshops, holding 2 events in March and 1 last Saturday. We saw an amazing level of participation and had some great conversations with our parks users. These workshops also have an online component, so that everyone has ongoing opportunities to engage with us through the parks page on yourescondido.com and our social media platforms. Across the 3 Parks Visioning workshops, we saw 110 registered attendees. And keep in mind, these are just those that signed in, not counting children or those who just stopped by. There was a total of 411 votes on our Parks Amenities Dotmocracy, an exercise where each attendee was given 3 dot stickers to vote on the types of parks amenities or features that they wanted to see more of. We had 313 ideas shared on our location-specific parks maps, 172 contributions on our Your Escondido Parks page. These are those yellow sticky notes that you just saw. And 881 votes on social media parks polls developed by our communications management analyst, Alex Tien. We've compiled these themes from the Parks Amenities workshops and online input so far. We're still analyzing some of the feedback from last Saturday's 3rd workshop, but some common themes and priorities clearly emerged. Most of our engagement, both in person and online, expressed a desire for more fields, courts, and specialized facilities, including futsal and pickleball courts, baseball and soccer fields, an ice rink, as well as multi-use and lighted spaces. Basically, capacity and access for active recreation. The second most frequently asked for category was foundational park needs, the basics that make parks usable, like shade, restrooms, lighting, seating, accessibility, and parking. The third most common sentiment was for youth and teen activities, a theme that reflects requests for teen-appropriate spaces like skate spots, bike parks, and other flexible hangout areas that give youth a positive space to gather and have fun. Very close behind were amenities related to trails and connectivity, like safe walking paths, trail links, and better connections to and between our parks. Water-based amenities such as pools, splash pads, and similar heat relief, family-friendly features were also prevalent throughout all of our engagement. And last but not least, programming, the way people want to use parks day to day, like leagues, events, reservable spaces, and activation, was also a common thread. Now, I'll take you through the ways we're responding. First, with park improvements that are already underway that reflect these priorities, and then with the investments under consideration for the current CIP. To build on the priorities that the community's emphasized, these are park improvements that are already underway and moving towards delivery. I'll walk through these in the order we expect them to come online. The pickleball courts at Mountain View Park are scheduled for completion around June of this year. This improvement expands access to one of the fastest growing recreational activities that we're seeing citywide. Next, we expect the Escondido Creek Trail improvements to wrap up in July. That project's focused on enhancing connectivity, walkability, and overall access along the corridor, all while celebrating the Hidden City's cultural roots. Following that, we're on track to complete the splash pad at Grove Park in August. That's a strong example of a family-oriented amenity that provides both recreation and relief during the hotter months. Moving into the fall, the skate spot at Westside Park is anticipated to be completed around November. That adds another dedicated space for youth and active recreation on the west side of the city. And then, looking into early next calendar year, we expect the John Masson Bike Park at Jesmond Jean to be completed around March of 2027. This will be a larger destination-style facility designed to accommodate a range of users and skill levels. And separately, but still very much aligned with the same visible progress theme, restroom improvements at Great Day Park are also underway, and that work is being timed for completion by July 1st of this year so that the facility is fully functional ahead of the city's special 250th 4th of July celebration. Taken together, these projects reflect real, near-term progress on the types of amenities that the community's been asking for, while also showing how we're continuing to build momentum as we move forward. So, with that context, what we heard and what residents are looking for, this slide shows the actual investment set in the preliminary CIP for parks, lakes, and the library. These are the projects and programs being brought forward for fiscal year 2026-27. You'll notice a strong focus on maintaining and reinvesting in existing high-use amenities. The citywide parks resurfacing project is one of the most visible and directly felt investments we're proposing this year and is in direct response to community feedback. The $440,000 allocation represents a coordinated effort to resurface aging sports courts across multiple parks citywide, not to repurpose them, but to restore them so that they remain safe, functional, and looking good for the community. In total, this project addresses 22 courts, taking a systematic approach rather than addressing these needs one location at a time. The project spans improvements at several key parks, including Kit Carson, Washington Park, Mountain View, Westside Park, and Grove Park, covering a mix of tennis and basketball courts, as well as multi-use recreation areas spread throughout the city. We're also investing in some key features at one of our highly frequented locations. Dixon Lake is a park, a lake, and an open space. And here, we're not just talking about one type of improvement. We're reinvesting across the full experience, including the playground, the boat dock building, and the pier. That supports a range of uses, from open space and recreation to fishing and community events year-round. It also aligns with what we've heard from the community around more opportunities for positive, active youth, especially for youth and families. More broadly, this reflects a balanced approach, addressing foundational needs while continuing to support recreation across the whole park system. We're also increasing investment in the city's library's collections, both physical and digital materials that residents rely on for learning, access to information, and everyday use. Council expressed support for the Library Board of Trustees' request to expand this investment, and those additional resources are reflected here. Importantly, this increase is made possible by reallocating funds saved from the library renovation to address an immediate community need. Here you'll see a snapshot of all the capital improvement investments staff is recommending in this preliminary CIP draft. Some items are part of a continuing programs. Others are requests to increase funding to take discrete projects into the next phase of the project lifecycle. And some are entirely new this year, but all are a result of a renewed approach to strategic capital planning. This table and the continuation onto the next slide show the investments into the improvement last year, fiscal year 2025-26, how much is being requested for approval in fiscal year 2026-27, and how much of the funding will use Measure I resource. As you can see, staff's made a deliberate effort to align projects and programs by community and council direction, then further prioritized by available funding sources, deliverability, and resilience. Thanks for taking the time to review staff's recommendation and allowing me to show you how we got there. We're looking forward to any further feedback or input you may have leading up to the CIP's formal adoption on June 17th. So our recommended action is to provide feedback and direction to return to the City Council on June 17th, 2026 for the adoption of the Capital Improvement Plan and budget. But before we end tonight's presentation, I just wanted to share some of the tools that Council approved last fiscal year. The CIP dashboard is one of several tools that we use to share information publicly. It highlights major city-led improvements, whereas there is a separate dashboard that tracks private development. Approved capital projects and programs will be input here after the June 17th adoption. And lastly, we're always listening to our community on yourescondido.com. Thank you, and now I'd like to open up the dais for any questions.
Do we have any public comments on this one?
None.
Okay. Council? Councilwoman Fitzgerald?
That was very thorough, very good to hear. I really like the upgraded traffic lights. That's really going to take away a lot of the complaints we're getting regarding congestion, and everything's going to be in the same timing. Also, I appreciate how you guys are really paying attention to the matching grants, and also the Transnet traffic signal, FY27 consistent funds that you're getting.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. Measure I is paying for a lot of things, but I really like that we are trying to get some of the funds that we've already paid into either Sandag or Transnet since 2008 back into our city. So good job on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very thorough presentation. I really appreciated that. You put things in categories that seem to make it easier to understand. I really appreciate the transparency and clarity regarding what Measure I funds would be spent and how. It just seems to me that you're making a very strategic way, not only of presenting it, but by listening to the community, the feedback from the stakeholders, the council members. There's a strategic way of dealing with it, and I thank you for that. I applaud you for that, and I really look forward to adopting our CIP for the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Ditto. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vinny. Great presentation. I love the format, and I had some questions written down, and then by the end of your presentation, you had already answered them. So just a couple things. So great job. You answered the questions. For the street tree maintenance budget, and maybe that would be Joe Goulart. I'm glad you knew I was going to ask, right? You know me. You know me. For the street tree maintenance budget, is that our standard amount? I think it's $150,000 for that.
No, that's $70,000 more than we have in the past. It's funded by gas tax.
Okay.
It's usually, over the past fiscal years, has been $105,000, and then we added $70,000 of it to bring it up to $175,000.
Awesome. And what does that get us? Is that just the trees in the public right of way? What kind of trees?
It gets us grid pruning. We use that to do grid prunes around the city. And so it gets us more available funding to do more grid pruning.
Okay. Is this the same budget that checks on, we had someone reach out to us at a recent council meeting about being proactive of checking diseased trees and making sure they don't die. Is that tied to that budget, or is that something separate?
It's something different. I mean, we have budget in our operating budget for street tree maintenance as well.
Okay.
And we have staff, we have city arborists, we have tree crews that go out and do this work as well. That's paid for out of our operating budget.
Okay.
And we do proactive work.
Okay, so that already exists. We have a process for that, and that there's a fund for that. So, okay, because I didn't know if we needed to ask for more So I'll ask more questions about that before the next meeting. And then I'm happy to see the $50,000 additional funding for the library circulation materials, since that's been the same budget that they've had for years. Really excited to see the CIP dashboard is happening. So I'm excited that will be released after the budget. And then also just really excited about the citywide parks resurfacing project for sports courts. So great budget. I'm excited for what you've put together. And thank you so much for doing an excellent job covering so much detail and letting us know how our CIP process with our, this is the kind of thing that I'm going to go back and share with folks who participated in those meetings to say, see, we heard you. We know how many people are commenting on your Escondido.com. We're listening. It's really important. I consider this community small wins for our city. So share that the staff is listening. You're doing a very intentional job of prioritizing our CIP project. So these are things that I'm excited to share with our residents. Thank you so much, Vinny. And thank you for answering my questions, Joe.
Thank you. On to current business. Item 13, does anybody need a break before we keep going? Or you just want to finish this? Okay. Letter in support of Assembly Bill 1857.
Yes. Colleagues, the letter's in your packet. It's the bill to get proactive. We have Vons that closed in our city, and this bill would allow grocery stores to go into what was a previous grocery store. Some grocery store leases have a covenant that restricts use for a certain amount of time, which in some communities that has resulted in not being able to have another grocery store in its place. So this would amend state law to make sure that those kind of restrictions and covenants are void. So that's pretty much what it is. It's just making sure that we can have a grocery store where a grocery store was. It's getting bipartisan support. To me, it's just a simple, good thing that supports economic development and make sure we can keep our grocery stores. So I'm asking for your support on that. I'll move to support, yes.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to make a comment before we vote? All right, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
And I'll just say thank you for bringing that to the council. Appreciate it.
Item 14 is the appointment of an ad hoc subcommittee for the city attorney replacement process. Do you have any kind of a presentation for that?
No, it's whoever you'd like to appoint.
I was going to appoint myself and Councilman Christian Garcia. That'll be my motion. Any questions or comments? If not, please vote.
Voting is open. Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, item 15, board and commission makeup interviews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have two candidates this evening, Jacqueline Kelleher and Miles Johnson. First will be Jacqueline Kelleher. I'm going to bring up the presentation. Oh, did you show? Oh. Okay, you're here. Perfect. Well, you get to go through it. Perfect. Thanks for being here.
First.
Okay. All right, you're good to go.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Kelleher. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and fellow council members, thank you so much for having me. Sorry it's such a long meeting. Dang, you probably have a lot of these. But my name is Jacqueline Kelleher. I'm seeking out a second term on the Public Arts Commission. Alongside my full-time professional work as a technology manager at an animal rescue, I've been actively involved in civic and nonprofit work throughout San Diego County, with a strong focus on community engagement, conservation, and the arts. I'm interested in continuing my service because I care deeply about how we use public spaces to reflect and serve the broader community, as well as ensuring there are a multitude of voices and opinions represented as we consider art that will be placed in our city. My professional background as a technology manager in a nonprofit environment has trained me to manage complex projects, budget, coordinate across teams, and communicate clearly with diverse stakeholders. I also bring experience in community-facing and mission-driven organizations, including with the San Diego Wildlife Alliance, where I volunteered since 2018, Mana San Diego Hermanitas leadership team, where I supported mentorship and leadership development for young women. And I do have experience at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where I lived in New York while I was in college, and I worked in the audience development team, as well as I led the college group for college students so that they could engage with the art museum. On the Public Art Commission, I've contributed by reviewing proposals and grant applications with attention to both fiscal responsibility and artistic impact. I'm comfortable evaluating complex information, identifying gaps. I like to try and ask a lot of questions, and I give constructive feedback that balances our vision for Escondido with practical constraints. If you've attended our meetings, you'll know that I'm not afraid to share my thoughts or talk through subjects that come our way. I think it helps me understand where my commissioners are coming at, as well as helps me see the vision of the artists that come forward. As far as knowledge of the board or the commission, I've certainly learned a lot during my time on the commission so far. And how I see the Public Arts Commission is that its role is to shape public art and how it's selected, funded, and integrated into spaces throughout Escondido. What I've really enjoyed is the diversity of our commission and how we represent different walks of life and opinions on art. I think that's what makes art really valuable and very interesting, especially seeing it from different angles. Everyone brings something to the commission, yet we wholeheartedly share a passion for the arts in Escondido. Chairperson Rogers, she works really closely with the Downtown Business Association and art associations. Our vice chairperson, Span, she's a docent for the Queen Califia. Commissioner Martinez, she works with youth. Commissioner Ryan, she's really great at seeking out different opportunities throughout the city that we might not otherwise think of, or they weren't already, designated for art. And then our newer commissioner, Commissioner Sackfield's experience with the Center for the Arts is really valuable. So I sincerely appreciate the work of our city staff as well, as we've gone through a lot of these interesting projects and developments, especially when it comes to Grand Avenue, the Creek Trail, etc. As far as short-term goals and vision, I want to continue supporting the Grand Avenue project. It's something that's near and dear to me because we put so much work, so much time into it. I can't wait to see that through to fruition, especially because it's such a center point in Grand, and I think it'll be really exciting for the public. And then long-term wise, I want to help Escondido continue to grow as a place where artists are supported and where public art is woven into daily life. I like how we're gearing towards more arts and culture and creativity celebration, tactical urbanism, and continuing to work with schools. And all of this just shapes my interest in continuing to move forward. And thanks for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Jacqueline. Miles, your turn. You can come forward.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor White, Deputy Mayor Garcia. My name is Miles Johnson, and as you know, I'm pleading my case to be part of the Public Art Committee. I'm an Escondido native, and not only am I an Escondido native, I grew up in an arts household. My mom was real big on culture, and a lot of my core memories involve downtown Escondido, so being a part of the same city council that helped shape my artistic identity, like a piece of my artistic identity, would be a blessing in some sort of like a full circle moment. I'm real big on serving the community. I'm currently pursuing a career in firefighting. I'm looking to be a part of the Firefighting Academy this fall. So just being available to my community however I can, whether it be for my career or whether it be volunteering as a member of the public art community, I'll be grateful. The plans that I would have for the city of Escondido just involves expansion. I feel like we have a good hub for what it is right now, but working alongside great artists such as Paco Pablos, he's done a lot for the city of Escondido, and just seeing what he's been able to accomplish, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't also inspired to take what he's taught me and do what I can with that knowledge. I feel like more community events, just to bridge more gaps, bring more cities together. At the ribbon cutting ceremony at Mershhouse Mall not too long ago, I know Oceanside was there and so was Vista, so I feel like just more integration with other districts as well would also benefit the culture, the reach, and just the reputation of Escondido as not only just like a homely city, but a city with culture and art depth and art history as well. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you,
Thank
Marcus. Great. Marcus, your turn now. Great.
Hello. Thanks so much for the invitation to interview. I'm Marcus Warner. I'm an engineer by trade and an artist by hobby, and I'm applying here to serve on the Public Art Commission. One of the main things that drew me to Escondido was the local public art and arts community, and I'm here today because I want to support its growth. As a participant in the festival arts community, I have experience in durable design and construction for resilience to public interaction, and have seen what works and what doesn't for high-quality, long-lasting installations. I'm proud to have helped fabricate Star by Glasshouse Arts, an aluminum and steel, illuminated aluminum and steel sculpture, which you may have seen installed at the California Center for the Arts last summer. I regularly participate in large-scale installations like that one, and hope this hands-on experience can be valuable to the Commission as it evaluates projects under review. I'm also happy to contribute my IT, social media, and web administration skills as necessary if that's needed. So my understanding is that the Public Art Commission is delegated by the Council to perform the advisory and administration work necessary for a robust public art program. Escondido is a great place to walk and bike, and I think public art is one of the key reasons for that. I live on East Washington and walk the Creek Trail daily, including to get here today, and watching public art go up along the trail has been one of the highlights of the past year for me. In addition, development of the local artist community itself is one of the impacts of this commission that I'm most excited to focus on. There's a lot of large sculpture art that comes home from Burning Man and other festivals that's already been battle tested against an unruly public, and it often ends up just going into storage or even scrapped simply because it couldn't find a permanent home. I want to connect the city with this underutilized resource in a way that both supports local artists and makes our budget go further. So I want to see Escondido recognized regionally and globally as the vibrant hub for fine performance and industrial arts that it's quickly growing into. I see a robust public art program as one of the key drivers for that vision, and this commission is vital to that effort. In conclusion, I'm excited to bring fresh perspectives and experiences to the commission, and thank you so much for your consideration.
Thanks, Marcus. So, Mr. Mayor, that concludes all of the interviews for our board and commission seats. As a reminder to the City Council, we have 3 vacancies on the Transportation and Community Safety Commission, 4 vacancies on the Public Art Commission. If you could send me your recommendations by the end of this week, I'll categorize that, give it to the mayor, and then he'll be bringing forward appointments on June 3rd. And if you need any additional supporting documentation, we have all the details for each candidate available as well.
And I want to thank the 3 applicants for staying this long and being that committed. I know that wasn't easy, so thank you for being here and doing that. Does anybody have anything they need to add to a future agenda? Is everybody okay skipping our reports?
I'll do a quick agenda. agenda.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to see a city report on on our homelessness or homeless status in the future. Thank you.
And I just have one. I'll second.
City manager report?
Nothing to report.
Any public comments?
I do want to make one comment real quick. It's
Go
on our
ahead.
report. In light of what happened over the weekend at the San Diego Islamic Center, I did have a conversation with Chief Plunkett and also Captain Ryan Hicks, Captain Ryan Hicks and Captain Josh Langdon. They are on the new community enhancement team, and they have reached out to a lot of the local religious leaders, congregations, and such. So I just want to let you know that every month they do have a meeting at the police headquarters for religious leaders, and if anybody is interested in going and learning more, they do go over what just happened, some safety measures, how the police is going to responding to those types of things, and again, they're even going as far as going to the churches, walking through the churches. And again, it's just that heightened level of safety that I'm really proud that our police department, number one, has the manpower to do it, and also was already taking those steps even prior to this happening. So I just want to make sure that our community knows our police is vigilant. They have a plan, and they are communicating with our church leaders. But if you do have any questions, just go on their website and just go online, see what their meetings are, and it is open to the public. And again, it's I just want to, again, just let you know that the police are on it. I'm confident in their abilities, and we're going to keep our city safe. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Just because you mentioned it, Councilmember, I just want to say my condolences to the family. I was actually at the Islamic Center a month ago, and I met the security guard who was killed. So just very heartbreaking, devastating time for our community, for our county and region.
Any other public comments? All right, this meeting is adjourned.